This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, a fitting way to start our afternoon safari with a little Impala lamb that's beginning its journey into life out here in the wilderness, which we know is fraught with danger and all kinds of things, which means that we have lots and lots of promise for this afternoon, because these impalas are not too far away from where there were lions and leopards this morning, which is what we hopefully are going to be able to find at some point during the course of this afternoon. You'll find that these guys are going to eventually go up onto quarantine, and hopefully we'll see some sort of interaction, but also hopefully these little ones will make it. The plan is to try and kind of come back here a little bit later and see if those lions are a little bit more active, and if these guys potentially have made their way closer towards them. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, your live African safari. As you can see, we've been watching a few little Impala lambs. Always a good thing just to stop with these guys. You never know what can be around, especially when we have conditions like we have this afternoon. Been very, very hot today, but there's a bit of cloud cover that's come in, and so things might start to stir a little bit earlier than they might have before if there wasn't clouds. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Johan this afternoon. We are coming to you live from South Africa, which means that we would love to hear from you, and you can interact with us using #WildEarth. It's always nice when you guys ask lots of questions and give us lots of comments, because it creates discussion, and that's always a good thing, because we all learn from it and get entertained from it. Also remember that it is there is going to be a special Explorers Fireside chat on the 13th of December, which means that you guys can participate if you join the Explorers Club, and you can find out all the information that you need to sign up on wildearth.tv/explorers. Should be a good chat. Trishala, myself, and everybody else, really. We're going to be covering all of the kind of highlights from 2020, our favorite sightings, and so it should be a really good evening. Probably what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to head eastwards, and the reason for that is because westwards looks like Armageddon is coming our way. There's big dark clouds, whereas east is nice and kind of open, so I'm going to head that way for now. I also want to try and see if I can follow up on any signs of Pachava and the cub, Tanya and the cub, and there was reports of a male leopard track in the east, which I know is probably Mulawati, and I know that it's probably not going to lead to anything, but one has to go and try. When it comes to Mulawati, if no one tries, it's never going to get any better. So sometimes it's like banging your head against a wall. You keep doing it until you expect a different result, and hopefully at some point we will get a different result. But that's kind of my plan for the afternoon, and then once it gets a lot cooler, we're going to head back towards quarantine, see if we can't find any sign of those lions, and see if maybe the wildebeest and impalas have made it back up there, and whether or not the lions will be active in terms of hunting. I think it's a fairly solid game plan for now. It's going to be, like I say, interesting to see what happens when it comes to the kind of movement of animals, just because it should get quite dark quite early today with the thick cloud that's rolling in from the west. All right, well, we're going to carry on. We're going to go try and see what else we can find. Hopefully there will be something out and about. In the meantime, let's send you across to Kim to say good afternoon.
Welcome, everybody. We have found a really beautiful scene to open up with this afternoon. We've got 3 elephant bulls, a 4th one off to the left, and a really, really beautiful, ominous backdrop. There's a lightning storm going on in the distance, and the colors are just beautiful. These elephants are looking nice and dark after a wash of rain last night, and they're just enjoying some of the lush grass that's growing in this in this open area that is actually meant to be a watering hole, but unfortunately, because we haven't had much rain, it's still pretty dry. Welcome to andBeyond Phinda. I'm Kim, and we've got Glenn behind camera. We came out looking for lions this afternoon. We've got to the last spot of where they were, and we came across this beautiful scene, so we cannot complain. It's pretty stunning out here. The rain, luckily for us, is pretty far off, and we're just witnessing it observing it from quite a way off. Yeah, these elephants are caked in a nice dark mud, similar to what this area holds, this dry watering hole. They must have found a nice mud wallow from last night sometime. We are going to, I think, stick with these elephants, maybe look around a little bit more to see if these lions are anywhere close by, but we'll send you over to Tswalu, who's found some hyena.
Good afternoon, everyone, to this very warm day at Djuma Game Reserve. We're here at the den. I thought we might just take a chance because it's so overcast. I was hoping that maybe June would be here, but she's not. It's hot, and 3 of the little cubbies. I'm glad to see them. Hi, everyone. It's me, Trishala, and also one of the game drive people. But it's me, Trishala, and I have Theo on camera with me. Very warm, very cloudy, and that's why I decided to come here, just in case. Now, we wanted to stay away from the den for a few days, which we did. And this afternoon, I thought, let's try it. I tried from afar. I looked with the binoculars. I can see, okay, June was not here. If June was here, we would have stayed a lot further back. But Heart is here. And all of the cubs that we are familiar with are out. So we know that June is very, very nervous around Heart, and Heart is very aggressive towards her. So when Heart is here, can be quite certain that we're not going to see the little cub when June comes along, if she comes along, considering Heart is here. But we'll obviously stick around and see it all unfold. What I was trying to avoid previously, when we were trying to stay away from the den for a few days, what I was trying to avoid is making June more nervous if we're here and nobody else is. As in none of the hyenas. Because we've gotten so used to so many members of the clan being so comfortable with us that we forget that they're members who will not be comfortable or might not be comfortable based on the experiences they've had. And that's why it's important to just be that much more careful with June and considerate of her needs. It feels like in the 2 days that we haven't been here, these cubs have grown even bigger. We have Hearts, 2 ribbons, 2 big boys there. Look at how big they are. And then Corky's a little spunky thing is just there on the termite mound. Hello, cutie. Linda, you are saying your woohoos that we're here at the hyena den. Absolutely. It's very big woohoos. I love spending time with them. Here comes Curious. Just coming to check out his friends. Yes. Hi. Hi, do you recognize us? I love it when they come over to say hi. Well, I'm going to send you to Kyle, who has a Springbok for you this afternoon, and I'm going to stick around here.
Well, it's a wonderful thing, a hyena coming to say hello. And a big hello from us here at Tswalu Kalahari on this very lovely afternoon. And what a way to start it off with South Africa's national mammal, the Springbok. Good afternoon, my name is Carl. Welcome to Tswalu. Behind camera is Owen. Thank you very much for joining us. And a lovely afternoon it is. Nice gentle breeze coming from the south, keeping it nice and cool. And that sun is out in full force this afternoon, which is great for us. You can see the Springbok actually seeking a little bit of shade there. And they'll start actually moving off and do what they need to do for the afternoon. We have scooted into this area. We stopped here first and foremost to look at these magnificent animals. Let me scoot forward for us there, Owen. Okay, they are. Okay. Actually looks like one or two of these females are pregnant. They tend to lamb here in at about end of December. So we're coming fairly close to the period where they'll start dropping their young. And that is obviously the period of abundance, especially for carnivores. But Springbok, like other antelope, are very sneaky when they're young. Rosalind, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your comment, your question. How high can a Springbok jump? So when they go through these beautiful leaps and bounds, these jumps which they will actually arc their back, they can reach a height of nearly 2 meters off the ground. And it's quite a magnificent leap. So they do a leap where they shoot off all fours and go vertically forward. When they start running, that's to evade predators. But then when they're excited, also to show one's fitness, they do something called pronking. And that's where the animal will actually push itself off the ground from all fours simultaneously. And it's quite a remarkable display. And the animal will actually arc its back. It'll have this very bent appearance when it does this pronking display. Remarkable to see, and hence the name Springbok. Jumping buck. Spring is jump in Afrikaans, om te spring, and then bok is buck. Very fitting name. Afrikaans is very descriptive, especially when you come to bird names in the Afrikaans format. But yeah, 2.5 meters is a very, very elegant display at that. Well, we're going to send you over to Tristan for some elephant activity.
Little things that are fairly agile, and so jumping is part of the agility that they go through. But as you can see, we've got something that's not able to jump at all, and that is a very large bull ellie. He's not a small fella at all. He's in amongst a herd of ellies at the moment that are all kind of, I suppose they've just come from the dam camera. They would have been in that area and swimming. They all look quite dark, and the tracks come straight from the dam. I'm just going to reposition ourselves because where we are now we're going to see very little. They're all dropping down into the drainage line, bar that one. So we're just going to go back and in the drainage line where we'll be able to see the entirety of the herd. So nice to have had so many ellies here of late, though. We've been so spoiled lately. The last couple of days, I would say, the last 2-3 days, there's been a lot of elephants around, which has certainly made things a lot nicer. I love when ellies are here. They are such entertaining creatures, and it's difficult not to be kind of in awe of them when you get, especially when you get big bulls like that. So no, don't come back up now. Oh, that's one of the bulls, that's fine, as long as it's not the cows. The cows are the ones that we need to watch, because if the bulls go up, they'll come back down and follow the cows. They're the kind of ones that dictate where everybody goes. The boys are just following in behind the woman. They're trying to find a female that's in estrus at this stage, and so they're kind of not really dictating where things go. They're the ones that are more following than actually leading what's going on. So here's one of the cows here. The rest are just behind the bush. They should emerge into this little open clearing, so I'm not going to go too much further. Here should be fairly good. There's a couple of young ones around. There's quite a few cows, so not a huge herd, but decent enough size. And like I say, the elephant bull that's here is absolutely magnificent. He's got these beautiful big tusks. A lot of the elephants that we see in this area are not the huge tuskers that a lot of people kind of know about. Unfortunately, a lot of the southern elephants, because of the dense wooded thickets that they live in and the diet that they have, tusks are worn constantly and broken and chipped and all kinds of things. And so you don't often see big tuskers down in this sort of south western corner of the Kruger Park. And the Sabi Sands and kind of private game reserve. Once you start heading north towards the Mapani Veld, then you start to see the really big guys coming out. And a little bit on the sort of eastern side of Kruger, there's been the odd one that has kind of milled about along the Lubombo Mountains on those big grassy flats down there. But here it's just, like I say, too much in terms of vegetation. The tusks are used too regularly that they wear a lot of the time. Eva, saying yay, we've got some ellies as well. Eva, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of them today. If yesterday afternoon and this morning's anything to go by, there was ellies absolutely everywhere. And that's a good thing. It's nice because especially this afternoon where it's so hot and humid, the ellies typically are going to be making their way to waterholes where we might see them swimming and playing. And that's one of my favorite things to do with ellies, is to watch them kind of go to waterholes and play. It's so fun to see them kind of having the best time as they splash about and throw water all over themselves. And really looks like they have the most fun when they do it. So we should be in for a good afternoon. In terms of the weather this afternoon, just to give you an idea of what it feels like. It feels like somebody has taken a sauna, a massive one, and dumped it over this reserve. It is seriously humid for us. I mean, it's not, some people that live in some parts of the world will think that this is not so bad, but the humidity must be easily 80-90% today, and it is still very warm. The residue heat that is radiating off the ground from when the sun was out, it makes it feel like you're kind of wrapped in a wet, warm blanket right now, which is not exactly that comfortable, and I'm sure the ellies themselves are feeling it too. Now, how ironic that we are going to send you across to Taylor McCurdy with a feathered friend, because she's had a day of torment when it comes to birds, which I'm sure she'll tell you all about.
No! And they're still giving us trouble all day long. We did have a bird, Tristan, but we will show you another one. There's just a glimpse of its little head. It is a southern red-billed hornbill. But do I have some stories to tell you this afternoon about this particular species of bird? My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi, and we are here at Prrivate Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger Park. Luckily for us, there is another southern red-billed hornbill. Its partner just over there in the grass. I'm just going to jump straight into the story. For those of you that have come to know me, you'll know that I'm quite accident prone, and, well, yes, I do silly things not on purpose. Anyways, I have come to question the intelligence level of the southern red-billed hornbill after my drama that one put me through today. Essentially what happened, one got inside my house. Now that sounds like fun and games, and it was great. It caught a grasshopper. It was all very funny and quite entertaining until I had to try and get it out. Now, I opened up every window, every sliding door, everything that you could think of. And these birds typically spend quite a bit of time down on the ground because that's how they feed. They don't really swoop up into the air and catch flying insects like a fork-tailed drongo or a lilac-breasted roller might. They typically forage for insects and things down on the ground. So you'd think, low flying, hopefully it would go out the windows. No, this one, it decided it was going to sit up in the beams, and the ceilings of the house, it's a thatched roof, must be about 5 or 6 meters high, so it was quite difficult for me to get there. I had to call in reinforcements after an hour of struggling to get this bird outside the house, so luckily Tristan's partner, and my best friend, came racing. She was my knight in shining armor. And together we thought, this should be easy. So we tried to put a plan together that failed and failed and failed. Eventually, the bird was now getting exhausted, and so were we. And the next minute, there was this opportunity where Ali was yielding the pool scoop with a net on it. I had a broom. We weren't hurting it or anything. We were just trying to coax it out. And it swooped towards me. Ali tried to grab it with the net. The pool scoop connected with my face. It knocked me out a few seconds, but the bird did fly out the window. So after about an hour and 45 minutes of trying to get this bird outside, it ended up with me being knocked out by my best friend. So what a wonderful story. So I can now quite confidently say that the southern red-billed hornbill is my least favorite bird. You'll need to redeem yourself. You can laughing at me, as it did earlier today. Not that one in particular. It was another hornbill that is sitting up in a tree. That one has just got its beak open like that because it's quite hot. So it's trying to cool itself down using the Gula flutter, essentially cooling itself down by evaporation. Much like crocodiles kind of do. Yes, but you caused much grief in my life today, so thank you very much, hornbills. I used to be quite fond of you. It's just the southern red-billed. We won't judge the southern ground hornbill or the African grey or the yellow-billed hornbills. We'll still give them a chance. But they don't look very impressed today. Very hot, very warm. But interesting. Right, so that's my story for the hornbills for you today. You might even see the bruise on the side of my face. Off you go across to Phinda, I think it is, where Kim has got something wonderful to show you.
So we're still sitting here with this beautifully dramatic scene. We've got the rumbling thunder and lightning in the background. And I think it's quite a fitting scene for these giants that we're watching. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. We just transfixed by the scene. Can't quite tear our eyes away. It's so beautiful. The elephant's just going on as if everything is normal, which I guess it is out here, but it's just so beautiful. And obviously the elephant's adding to it. It's a nice deep rumble. Oh my gosh. The lightning's so beautiful. It's so special being able to sit like at a distance away from it like this and just observe from far away, completely unaffected by it, and just enjoying the beauty of it. One elephant's grabbed a tuft of reeds and is, oh, not anymore. Yeah, it's flicking all the mud off.
Going into the areas.
So it's just the 3 elephant bulls, one off to the left, just peacefully feeding. Looks like they've been here for quite a long time. They're obviously enjoying what this area has on offer. It's quite a lot more lush than lots of the other areas surrounding them. And with a bit of rain from last night, it might be a little bit more muddy than some of the higher areas. I think that's why they're enjoying it a bit more than maybe being up on the hills. We're a little bit behind in our rain for the season. So it's a search every day for the animals to come and find the luscious grass and vegetation, which is often down in the lower lying areas, for where all the little rain that we have got is kind of drained off into and kept that vegetation a little bit more green than the rest. Yeah, David, it is an excellent scene. I think I'd sit here the whole drive if I could. But I think that we will be moving on shortly. Maybe find another dramatic scene with some other epic animals. We'll probably have the same beautiful backdrop, but just with something different in the foreground. And that's our goal for the afternoon, I suppose. Okay, I think we are going to leave these elephants. I don't think they're going to be moving anywhere very far anytime soon. They look very, very content in their area. We're going to go and try and find a lioness and her 2 cubs that I think that Pete was with this morning.
These hyenas are also very, very content. They're not going to go anywhere except maybe back into the den. At this point, I'm not sure which is hotter. The 34, 35 degree temperature in the den, a little bit cooler further down, or the temperature out here. Either way, they're out and comfortable. Corky's little one is going out exploring. Hearts 2 are still suckling. And Ribbon's other boy is mooching about as well. Everyone's just having a good time. A very slow, good time. Can you imagine with all that fur? How hot it must be. Oh. Let's just flop back down. I'm glad to say that it smells better today than it did the last time I was here. That's always more pleasant to be at the den when it smells like any other place in the bush. Very, very quiet and peaceful here. Still very humid and damp though, but we're gonna sit here and relax like these guys.
Well, as you can see, we're still with our elephants, and you can see that we've got a very large cow there with her baby, but they are both dwarfed in comparison to this bull. If you look at how much taller he is, and then what I want you to look at is how much bulkier the head is. If you look at the size of the head on that female versus the size of the head on the male, her head seems tiny compared to him. He is huge, this guy. It's one of the bigger bulls I've seen lately. We'll find that they're coming in now, though, slowly but surely, because we're soon going to be in marula season, and we find the males arriving when that happens. But he's got 2 nasty little wounds on his, well, I mean, nasty is a relative word, but for us as people, they'd be quite nasty. He's got 2 kind of holes on his front right leg that are a bit infected. You can see a bit of pus kind of leaking out through one of those holes. Now, what would have caused that, I have no idea. I'm just trying to look with binoculars to see what they are, but they look like 2 little abscesses that have gone a bit funny. Maybe he was fighting with another male, or I don't know. The one seems like it's drained quite nicely. The other one's still a bit full of stuff, but that shouldn't worry him too much. Those should come right. I don't think he'll have too much of an issue with those little wounds there. Isn't it crazy, though, that little one in front will one day be the size, if it and it is indeed a little boy, that one, will one day be the size of that guy in the back? It amazes me. JB, how old is this baby elephant? Probably, I would say the tusks are just starting to come through. You can just see on the sides of the trunk there's a little bit of swelling that's taking place. So generally when tusks start to show is around 4 years old. So somewhere there. It's about 4 to 5 years old, I would imagine. In comparison, his mother is quite an old elephant. Her temples are heavily sunken. So she must be around sort of 40, somewhere there. Whereas the bull is probably, I would say, Also in his sort of 40s, maybe even could be a little bit older than that too. So big boy, and imagine what he's seen in his life. Can you imagine all the things that he's kind of witnessed and gone through, and the animals that he's come across, and the places that he's been? Because a lot of the stuff we don't even know where these guys go. Unless they're collared, we can't be sure as to what their sort of movements are. But I can tell you what, when he is this close, he is not a small individual, that's for sure. He's coming right up behind the car, so I do apologize about the antennas and all the other things. He is in muss, so generally just give him a little bit of a chance to move without starting cars and things like that when they get this close. Sometimes that can trigger them to get like a little bit of a fright, and you don't want a big bull of that size turning his head abruptly and flinging his trunk, because it will knock this car flying. So generally when they come behind you like this, I mean, he's being an absolute gentleman. He hasn't given us one iota of problem since we've been here, even though he is in that heightened level of testosterone. But you don't want to kind of frighten him or give him a reason to get upset or feel like he's got competition. So it's always good just to sit quietly with him and enjoy. Now, he's come around this side. He stinks, though, I can tell you that much as well. His must is dribbling, and so he's smelling really, really bad at this stage. There's a little woodland kingfisher that came in as well. But it must be this car that's coming into an estrus cycle, because he does not follow any of the other females or any other elephant. He literally is just sticking to her. Wherever she goes, he's heading to as well. And he doesn't kind of move unless she moves. So when she stops, he feeds. When she moves, he kind of carries on. But you see how he's resting his trunk. Now, this is often a sign of an elephant that's in a relaxed state. When they drape their trunk like that, often that's when they kind of chilled and are not too worried about life. All right, so let's reposition slightly, because poor Johan is in a contorted mess on the back of the car trying to follow this Ellie around. So we'll just try and kind of reposition slightly to make it a little bit easier now that Ellie has moved off. All right, while we get ourselves into a better position, let's send you across to Kim, who's found the first cat for the afternoon.
So we have driven not even 50 meters away from our elephants, and we've come across a very, very fat cub. You can see his belly is bulging, and he's actually, his sibling is on the other side of our vehicle, and you can see he's trying to find a way around. Looks like he's going to try and go under the causeway. There's Mum sitting over there. Shame, she's been doing all the hard work for the afternoon. I think these cubs are completely full up on little warthog piglets. Oh, as if she knows I'm speaking about her. Good morning or afternoon, Mum. A few fat drops of rain. Shame. It's quite a tough life having to feed two ravenous growing cubs constantly. But the season is that of lots and lots of life. So piglets and Impala lambs, and soon wildebeest calves will be abundant, and that is easy pickings for a seasoned hunting lioness. So she's got a pretty good, quite a lot of food for these youngsters, and it looks like they are overindulging. There is one on our other side. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a look at it. We can just see her back kind of low in the grass there, and she's eating something. We haven't been able to see what. Oh, there you go, pulling it forward. Got blood all over her nose. She's having a lovely time. Off she goes. Oh, her brother looks like he might be heading towards the water. Oh, Mum's coming up next to us here. Ryan, the only way we can tell... Hello, Mum. She's seen her son heading off towards the watering hole, and I think she's just going to follow him. And I think we are going to do the same. But Ryan, the way that we tell the difference between a male or a female cub is just by looking under the tail for the testes. That's the only way when they're at this young age. There's no other telltale signs. When you look at them one next to the other, you can kind of tell there's a little bit of a size difference, but that's only when they are together. Apart from that, it's just, the testes. Okay, we'll leave that little one busy on her carcass for now. Oh, wow. Now we've got that dramatic sky in the background again with some lightning. Wow, 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 wow. Nature's seriously providing today. See our Mum, you can notice that she's not nearly as fat as her cubs. And that is because she'll let them do most of the eating. Most of her hunting is for her cubs at the moment. Her main goal is... Wow, oh my gosh, this lightning is insane. Yeah, her main goal in life right now is to get these cubs to adulthood. Oh, little cubs having a play with Mum. Okay, here we go. All right, we're going to stay here as the scene gets ever more dramatic. We might have to cover up because it is starting to rain, but we'll send you over to some birds.
Hello and welcome back. Beautiful little pair of crowned lapwings we've got in view here. And if you look at the behavior of these birds, you can see they are fairly close to us. This is giving me a very clear indication that we are very close to a nest site, because these birds haven't decided to move off away from us. And when we originally came up here, just the behavior of how the bird initially took a very low profile, actually flattened the body, is giving me a very good indication that there is a nest concealed in and amongst all of this vegetation and debris. Just like the blacksmith lapwing, they too create a shallow depression. And then the shallow depression is sometimes lined with a little bit of material, but nesting on the ground like a totally exposed, hardly known nest, which is remarkable from a bird. And the birds they also will act in aggressive behavior if I get too close. If I jump off this vehicle and walk a little bit closer, aggression, no way, no way. Did you see that? The bird just sat down on the nest, I think, right here, sitting on it. Obviously, its cryptic coloration makes it very hard. Oh my word, that's the nest. Look how she's expanding or fluffing out her breast feathers to encase the eggs. Obviously, incubation is very important, but exposure to sun is just much of a threat as cold is. Oh my word. So being exposed to the sun like this, the incubation temperature could exceed a limit where it could be detrimental for the embryo. So not only providing warmth, but adults also provide shelter for the eggs and also regulate this temperature at a constant medium over a long period to ensure embryonic development happens in the correct manner. We are on a ball with the nests this side. Sinak, how common are crowned lapwings on Tswalu? They are fairly abundant. You've got a very good chance of coming out on a game drive and actually seeing a few of them throughout the afternoon or the morning. They are fairly prominent, so you've got a very good chance at seeing them. And they tend to stick around all year. Obviously, at this point in time, they've become very aggressive to ensure the safety of those little eggs. And it's just as long as those blacksmith lapwing individuals. It'll also be about 29 to 30 days, so nearly a month it'll take for incubation to be complete before those little ones emerge. I just hope that we can actually catch a glimpse of these little eggs because they are absolutely remarkable. So to think about how well they are designed to blend into this environment. So light brown with dark brown specklings. It's almost like a light milky brown uniform color with lots of dark specklings right over the entire egg. And that is just a super, super big advantage when it comes to concealment because it basically blends in with all of this stuff on the ground. So obviously now she's making contact, or he's making contact with his skin on those eggs where heat can be transferred a lot more efficiently. Oh, we're going to send you over for some waterhole action.
So these lions have walked across to the watering hole and they're having a little drink, as you can see. Oh, loving nibble from mum. Yo, that cub is very, very thirsty. See, mum just had a little sip, or a few little laps, and then she's off, just because she's not nearly as full as the cub, so she's not as thirsty. See how the cub hisses at the water like that? It's mainly just at its own reflection, and just at the possibility of there being anything in the water that might be a danger to it. Just trying to intimidate it off. But I also just wanted to show how close we are to the elephants. I mean, what a cool scene. We've got elephants right there, lightning right here, and then lions drinking. It's a pretty beautiful scene. Cubs are heading back to the other sibling. I doubt she'll even realize that they've been gone, because I think she was pretty involved in her eating of the carcass. Still some beautiful thundering noises. Absolutely beautiful. It's been such a hot day on Phinda, so this cloud cover and a little bit of rain, which has already stopped, is a very, very welcome relief. Oh, the little male is scent marking on a bush. Cheeky bugger. It's definitely not necessary for him to be doing that yet. I don't think anyone will be intimidated by the smell of a cub's scent mark, but I suppose it's never too early to start asserting your authority. He is a little male, so I suppose one day he will have to be scent marking all over the place, finding his own pride. So why not start now? I suppose it shows some good dominant characteristics, which I suppose is not a bad thing at all for a young male lion. But I mean, you can just see that belly bulging from side to side as he walks. It's hilarious. I suppose if he wants to grow into the big dominant lion that he is acting like, then he needs to eat a lot of... Yes, we are talking about you. Yeah. He's definitely got a chip on his shoulder. Okay, we are going to keep up with these lions, but we're going to hand you over to Tristan and his storks.
Indeed, we are with the storks, and our saddle-billed stork is being a bit of a nuisance to the poor yellow-billed storks. It's chasing them all over the place. There's actually 2 yellow-billed storks that are there, and they were happily going about their business looking for food, and then our saddle-billed stork male came along and chased them. It was interesting to watch, though. He was using a lot of bill clapping, so that's when they open and close their beak, and up and down, up and down, up and down, and makes this kind of woody sound, like 2 pieces of wood being slapped together. And wings out to try and intimidate them with his size. And you can see from that how much bigger he is already. And when he stretches his wings out at almost 3 meters wingspan, he's quite an intimidating prospect, even to a bird that's quite large like the yellow-billed storks. And they very quickly gave way, and now he's just standing there looking all proud of himself. Not nice, saddle-billed stork. You need a partner. Then you'll feel better about life. That's what I think, at least. But it's fascinating watching the storks hunting at Buffelshoek Dam these days. The water is receding quite quickly now. And the area where they're fishing currently is very shallow. We used to be able to drive all the way around that area. It's not a deep section at all. The deep part is kind of just here in the middle. There's like 2 little pockets that you've got. So I think what's happening is that they're using the shallows to almost push them up, the fish and frogs and various other things, up against the kind of banks, and then from there hunting them. And every now and then you'll see with the storks as they swipe their beaks, so a fish will pop out and kind of try and sort of get away from them and almost exit the water and then splash back down away from them. But while this is a good place to watch yellow-billed storks, there's still no better place to watch them in South Africa or in the Kruger National Park than a little dam that's in the Kruger called Sunset Dam. There you can get tons of these guys, and they come right up to the edge of the water where you park, and they just hammer fish. It's amazing how many things these guys catch in a session of looking for food. You see how they do it, so they slowly kind of turn their heads as they go. Now you'll also notice with these 2 birds that they are very, very white in coloration, and sometimes when you see yellow-billed storks, you'll actually see that they are a lot more pink, and so there's a variability in that. They think has got to do with what they're eating at the time. So if they're eating a huge amount of fish and frogs, the feathers often are very, very white. As soon as they start to eat a lot of freshwater mussels, which is something that they target quite regularly, you find that their feathers start to take on a more pinkish tone, and there's a pigment that is in shellfish particularly that they absorb, and it starts to basically dye their feathers a little bit, and you get a much more pinkish wing particularly that comes through on these guys. I've never been able to confirm it with kind of in-depth articles, but I've read about it a few times in various places of how these shellfish can influence color of feathers, particularly in birds. So it seems to be those populations that are on particularly riverbed areas. So you see it along like the Sabi Sand River, you see it on the Letaba, the Olifants. Those birds, they often are far more pink than what you see in this kind of area, where they're doing a lot more of this kind of dam fishing, if you wanted to call it that, where there's very few freshwater mussels that are alive in this. They require sort of moving water more than stagnant water like what we have here. Weird looking birds though, aren't they? With that big yellow beak and that kind of red facial skin. And you see how they lack feathers kind of up on their head, and that's because they often stick their heads quite deep into the water to just basically where their eye is. So they try and maximize the depth that they can fish at by having a long beak as well as a bare skin, that the feathers are not getting clogged with water and getting gunky from all the stuff that's stuck on surface tension as they push their beaks down into the water. All right, from these two that are fishing, let's send you across to another waterhole with Taylor, who's got some iconic animals coming for a drink.
We do indeed. It seems as though the elephants and the buffalo have given way for the giraffe and zebra, and then of course the one hippopotamus. But it's quite an awesome afternoon here. The hippo's been very boring, so we won't really bother about him. I just thought I'd mention him. But the animals that are being quite entertaining are, of course, the zebra and the giraffe. I hope that the zebra stick around for a bit longer. The giraffe have had a bit of a drink. But what the zebra are doing, you can see that one over there, is that they were dust bathing just a moment ago. They were rolling around in the sand. So I'm hoping that one has done it, that the others will now join in. I think they're just trying to find a perfect spot. Or the other thing that they could also be doing is that perhaps they are doing a bit of geophagy, where they'll actually nibble on the soil, eating some clay. That could be the case too. It looks like they are having a bit of dirt to eat, which is not an uncommon behavior to see with lots of different animals, where they're not getting certain minerals in their diet, so they'll actually just go and eat the sand. Everybody's kind of focused on the impala that are chasing one another around in the distance. So the giraffe are not too sure about what's going on. You can see there's quite a few other animal species just in the background. There they all are, all the boys chasing the girls. Girls desperately running away from the boys. All the young lambs very confused, not quite sure what's going on, and a few more zebra as well. Gotcha. So it's quite nice. It was quite peaceful before the impala started making their gargling, gurgling noises. Come on, zebra. Roll around in the dust, because that was quite spectacular. But it does look like they have been eating the sand. You can see how they're sticking their tongues out quite vigorously now. I don't think they're particularly fond of the taste. However, medicine doesn't always taste very well, but, you know, it's something that is necessary. Looks like a mare, and she actually looks like she's pregnant. And I'm sure for those of you who have had kids, I have not, so I can't speak from personal experience, but you get all sorts of cravings. And I know that a lot of women want to eat chalk, so perhaps it's something of the same thing, eating clay, or similar anyway. But if they do have a little roll around, it'll be quite nice. They'll stir all the dust up. But look at them. Actually almost gnawing down on the ground. Just normally see them doing this in these black cotton soil areas, or also termite mounds. Isaac, my favorite animal to observe on safari is elephants of all kinds, big, small, young, old, bulls, cows, babies, or calves, should I say. But I actually enjoy watching everything. And the longer that I spend in the bush, the more fond I become of the smaller interactions. So, I mean, watching zebra is always awesome. There's one that's coming charging on down now, off to the right. He went off for a bit of a stroll. I'm assuming it's a stallion. Looks like it. Quite frisky, saying hello. And is it a stallion? It's hard to see. And but this with elephants, that we're doing something that's just so amazing, you know. Whether it's them at the watering hole, whether they're feeding, I enjoy watching the social interactions and learning about the structures within the herd. So those are some of my favorites. Perhaps that's a youngish zebra. It doesn't look very big in comparison to those mares. But like I said, there are more zebra at the back, so I don't think this is the whole herd. I think this is just a small group of them. Got your nose down on the ground. What are you looking for? And the Egyptian geese, also just at the back. Of course they're here. They wouldn't dare leave in Lovedan. I'm surprised they're not making loud noises trying to chase everybody away, because just like the saddle-billed stork can be quite bullyish, Egyptian geese are known to do the same thing. They're many blacksmith lapwings, which they're also lingering around here. Now, that plant that's around that zebra's face is not actually supposed to exist in this area. There's quite a bit of Deuterostramonium growing, or mulpitta, which we are in the process of removing. It is an alien plant species that hails from South America, and unfortunately it likes to grow in sort of disturbed areas. This being an overgrazed area, which is a perfect habitat for the Djuma to grow. So we've been pulling it out. Oh my goodness, we spent about 2 hours the other day, and we filled, I can't tell you how many boxes of the stuff, and we got rid of it. And we're trying to get rid of it now before it develops its seed, so you can see it growing all around the zebras. Nothing really feeds on it. The seed pods are also very, very spiky, not very nice. And so even with the bird species, you don't see them trying to feed on it at all. But it is also considered a medicinal plant. So even though it's quite a poisonous plant, the seeds are quite toxic. That's why it's called mulpitta, mad seeds. It's because they say if you ingest it, you're either going to have a really good time, or you're going to die, or you go crazy. So, take your pick, one of three. I definitely would not take the gamble, and definitely don't advise it. And funny enough, and I think I've mentioned this before, I remember as a kid going to the horse shows and playing around, in between classes, and seeing a lot of this mulpitta around, not knowing what it was. And we used to throw the seed pods at everybody, and we used to crack them open. And you know what kids are like? We put everything in our mouths. I cannot believe we didn't ingest some of those seeds. I almost think it's an important plant. There's some poisonous plants in South Africa, some that are indigenous and some that are exotics, that I definitely think we should make aware to all the kids out there, because the Djuma grows in the cities, on the sides of roads. For example, it's not one that's hard to come by. And those seed pods are very enticing, especially if you're naughty like I was, or still am. But anyways, we will continue doing our conservation efforts around Ndlovu Dam and removing as much of this weed as we can. Off you go across to some lions that probably won't be doing any gardening.
Welcome back. We are still sitting here with two very fat little lion cubs. You see that bulging belly. So this one closest to us is the male, and then the one behind is the female. When they stand up, you can see the size difference. We had a question earlier about how to tell the difference. At the moment, you can't see under the female's tail, so you can't see the comparison. I don't want to explicitly point out the testes of the male, but if you do look there, you'll be able to see a small pair situated below his tail, which would be absent in his sister, who's sitting behind him. We've just been laughing at these two, though, because they are so fat, but they are in a little bit of a playful mood, but I think they're a little bit too uncomfortable to do anything really energetic, so they keep kind of flopping onto each other and half-heartedly batting one another on the face, biting each other on the back. But mostly they are just panting and panting and panting. Oh, now we've got lightning on this side too. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. We were previously observing from quite a way out. We seem to now be relatively in the middle. There's a bit of thunder. In the middle of the storm. Very, very beautiful. Also quite funny about that little lioness sitting further away. See, she's got quite a lot of blood on her face, and when she finally emerged from her feeding frenzy, she was kind of doing these strange little hiccup sneeze things. And I think that she probably had all blood and grizzle up her nose and in the wrong airways of her throat, and was just having a bit of a sneezing fit and a hiccuping fit. If you look at them both, though, you'll notice that the female cub, again, the one at the back, is not nearly as fat or as full as the male cub. And because he's the male, because he's a little bit bigger than her, he will bully her out of the way. If it's just a little carcass, which I think that they have been feeding on, like I mentioned earlier, they've probably been feeding on little piglets and Impala lambs. I think this time the victim was a little warthog piglet. That male will bully his way to most of the meat, and the female will have to just take what's left. I mean, I don't think that she's done too badly for herself. She's still very fat, but just not as fat as him. There's that half-hearted play I was talking about. Country Bumpkin, when a lion pride splits, they do tend to have a bit of tension because they do need to find their own territory. So they will probably have territories that border one another's. They'll overlap maybe for a little bit at the beginning, just after they've split. But as the prides then grow individually from one another, there may be a little bit of tension between the two, and they'll have to start squashing into other territories, probably maybe other prides on the other side of them. So there's quite a lot of tension that goes on with the splitting of a lion pride, because at the end of the day, even though they are kin, they still are aiming to have, the survival of their own offspring. So there'll be a reason for their splitting. Often it's because the pride's getting too big. With these lions, we can see that it's just the lioness and her two youngsters, and she'll have split away from her pride just temporarily so that she can feed her cubs away from the rest, because her sole aim is her very own cubs. So that's what happens when there's a split and that tension happens. They're protecting their own. So yeah, they won't necessarily overlap very much. Maybe just a little bit at the beginning when the spin-off pride is trying to establish their new territory. It looks like these cubs are starting to settle down. We may stay with them for a few moments longer just to see if there's any more action out of them, but I think that they are so full that they're just going to be out of action for a little while. We may leave them and go and see if we can find something else.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first WildEarth Explorers fireside chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
So these cubs are still doing nothing. We did have a little spurt of action out of the female when a little crested francolin crossed the road and she decided to to have a go. She ran at it. It was obviously unsuccessful because you can see her there sitting with nothing. It is something that's quite spectacular about lions, is that they can hunt. Not that she would have been successful at such a young age, or she could have been with some luck on her side, but they, oh my gosh, the male's just fanning his nether regions. And his belly, mainly his belly. But yeah, they're able to hunt with extremely full stomachs. So cheetah, on the other hand, because they rely so much on their speed and aerodynamic build, they cannot hunt when they've just eaten. Whereas lions, being very opportunistic, if something does come by, even if they've got very fat stomachs, they'll probably still try hunt it. Ouch. Oh my gosh, they look like they're going to fall over the edge of the causeway there. I think in this instance, and it doesn't happen very often, I think the female's got the advantage over her brother because she's not as fat as him. I don't know if you probably didn't see that, but we're just getting lightning on all sides at the moment. Jack, at this age, they're still pretty vulnerable to predators. When the mum goes off hunting, she'll make sure that she leaves them in a fairly protected area and that there isn't anything else around. Their biggest threat would probably be other male lions who are not their father. But luckily for these two youngsters on Phinda, there aren't too many of those very, very close by, so they're all right from that. Leopards would probably be able to take out these cubs as well, or one of them. Buffalo also sometimes would sort out, or if they came across lion cubs without the protection of a adult, that could also be a bit of a dangerous incident. So yes, I mean, they're still very, very small. They've got sharp claws and sharp teeth, but they don't quite have the strength or skill to fight their way out of... Wow, the wind is picking up. I think the storm is coming our way. But yeah, they don't quite have the skill and strength to fight their way out of certain circumstances. So they're still quite vulnerable. But leopard probably would actually just avoid a situation like this. They wouldn't, if they smelt lions, they wouldn't come into the... Oh, we're going to have a little stork. It's still so half-hearted, this play. It's hilarious. Even that run was very slow and loping. There wasn't any real urgency to it. There's quite a beautiful cloud formation above us, which we'd like to show you. Brandon, in a heavy hailstorm, they would just go and try and find a nice thick bush, like very densely canopied bush, and they'll just kind of put themselves right down into the bottom of that. But yeah, I think you can now see the spectacular sky that is above us. Some unbelievable cloud formations. Look, they're about to burst. We are just getting a little bit of a spatter at the moment. Nothing to scare us home yet. but lots of sheet lightning. Do get struck by lightning, and I think that you might be able to guess that the most likely to get struck is there's a herd of buffalo coming in behind us. I was just looking at the mother, and she's looking rather intently behind our vehicle, and there's a big herd of buffalo that's just rolling in. But Mike, sorry, back to your question. Oh my gosh, sorry. I just keep getting distracted by all the lightning. It's so beautiful. But yes, giraffe do tend to get struck by lightning, and even things like zebra. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you can see all the kind of strobe light effect that the lightning's having on us at the moment. But yeah, things like zebra can even get struck by lightning. So yes, animals are not completely safe from lightning, unfortunately. It's getting quite hectic out here. Cubs are unfazed, still playing away. I'm just getting like flashes of scenes from the Lion King. Isn't there a really dramatic Lion King scene where there's rain and lions and stuff? Oh, playing's getting a bit more vicious. Wow, okay, it sounds like Trishala's found you a leopard, so we'll send you over to her. I think that we might turn around and try and get a view of these buffalo while just trying to stay safe.
Yes, we managed to find this leopard. It's Tingana. And I was actually having a problem with my earpiece and returning to camp. And then, boom, 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 all the alarm calls, and we saw him strolling this way. He's on quarantine near the Bushbryce site, which is in the south of quarantine. And he just walked right through quarantine. So every single potential prey item has seen him waltzing through. And you can hear the sheer terror of a nearby squirrel. He certainly wasn't trying to hide his presence as he walked through. Now, he's sniffing around as if he has a kill. So we only literally just found him. I just want to have a look. I don't see anything in the trees, but he's been sniffing around as if he's got a kill. How lucky are we that we're getting to spend so much time with Tingana? Been thoroughly lucky. Alright, he's on the move again. He's moving at a fabulous pace, the type of pace you'd expect a leopard to move at when it's this warm outside. Oh, is he coming down this way? Let's just have a quick look. Yeah. Alright, we're going to get a nice view of him here.
As a second agent, I think you're going to come and join us at the camera.
Just because we've just found him, it's going to be a little bit busy on the radio. Ah. Hello, gorgeous. This should be good.
Oh, lovely.
The terror in the squirrels. In the squirrel's voice, which we can also see the terror in his eyes. Let's show them. Mike, he's at the Bushbryce site. I'm going to ask you to please take over the lineup. Look at that. Oh, okay. Whoa! I know, it's a leopard. Oh my goodness. Its whole body working to make the sound. Tingana is looking at it now like, please stop. You're making a racket. It's actually very, very fortunate to have found it. We always say when it's overcast, it's a good time to find predators at any time of the day, but because of the heat, I've thought it unlikely for him to move too much from this morning. But he was strolling through and not even panting that hard. Squirrel sounds like a squeaky toy. He's also posing beautifully for us on the termite mound. It's so wonderful. If you're wondering why we're not at the den, it's because Hart ran away. Tim, you say it sounds like it's shouting leopard, leopard, leopard. Look at Tingana's face when he looked up at the squirrel. Tim, it does. Leopard, 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 leopard at the end. Leopard, 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 leopard. It must be quite annoying when all the animals around you are announcing your presence as you walk through. At first, I'm sure it must feel quite nice. And you must feel quite important in Ghana. But after a while, you just think, can everyone please just calm down? It's just me, Tingana the leopard, you know. He's made a very smart move. He's sitting on the southern side of this termite mound, and to the north of this termite mound, look at him giving the squirrel a look again. To the north of this termite mound is all the different herds of antelope. So he's been very, very smart to position himself here until things settle down. Maybe he'll wait until it's a little bit darker and cooler, and the antelope have forgotten that he was around here, and then he'll go back to hunt, or he will just get up and move. Okay, from my rosettes to some proper spots, let's send you over to Kyle.
That's very funny because we have a ground squirrel here shouting out, cheetah, 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 cheetah. There's a warthog. A big male warthog. Look at these little cute and cuddly individuals. We haven't seen them for a little while. They've been a little bit out of action. And we found tracks further up north and we followed down here, and in the mix of things, one of our very experienced trackers from the tracking team actually just informed us that we need to come into this area and very quickly. And this mother has taken down a springbok. You can just see just to the left-hand side of her head, you can see the horns. Looks like a young male. And they have opened up the carcass. But how exciting is it to see these little guys? We haven't seen them for about a month. They've been very sneaky and they've been operating in areas that we haven't been able to find them. But Mother Nature said today is the day that you folks need to see these wonderful little gifts. So Mom's still doing a sterling job ensuring the safety of these little ones, but also ensuring that they are acquiring the nourishment that they need, because they would be weaned at this point in time. They would be on a full meat diet at this age, and they're looking very healthy. Wow. So if you joined us in the very beginning, you would have seen these little individuals at a couple of 100 grams. They're fairly large now, so they're about 3.5, 4 months of age, and looking very, very healthy. They're watching that warthog in the distance. Obviously, it's a very stressful time for a mother, not only having the pressure of the cubs, but also now this carcass. It's like having a target on your back. So she needs to ensure that she is watching every bush, and that's why she's come to this shady spot. It's a little bit cooler to consume one's meal, but then as well as you are concealed and hidden from predators. But you can still see she's on a high alert, just making sure that there's no intruders that come wandering in here. Oh, little cub, very alert. That's a big warthog, buddy. Maybe when you're a little bit older. Look at this warthog looking at us here. Just take a look at the water gear, folks. It's obviously spotted the cheetah, and you can see it's not too sure on what to make out of it. Warthog have very poor eyesight, so very poor eyesight, so it is not sure what this shape and movement is here in the shadows. And you can see in which way the bushes are moving. The wind is directly towards that warthog, so the scent of that female is basically wandering to that big boar. That's a male warthog. You can just see from its sheer size, very large head. Oh, I think it's a male, sorry. Yep. But this is a little bit large for her, but she's got that meal, which is obviously enough for her and the little cubs right now. But the warthog's still trying to make out what's going on. Just one of our guards going past us. I can't believe how much they've grown. And what a beautiful story that we've been involved in from the very beginning up until now. Obviously still a very, very vulnerable stage for these little ones. I mean, cheetah have a very high mortality rate for cubs. Some areas it's 60 to about 80%. Yeah, I'd say 70 to 80%, especially in areas like the Maasai. Isaac would have shown us just the predator presence in that area, and lack of cover is a thing that obviously makes that number so high. When you get areas where you have a bit more cover, a bit more concealment, then obviously that mortality rate comes down. In the Southern Kalahari here and Tswalu, it's about 50 to 60%, which is fairly good. And this is not her first litter. Obviously experience would also go hand in hand with that. Obviously past knowledge on what to do, when to do, how to do it is very, very important. That little one's belly is full.
So we're sitting here with yet another magnificent scene, with yet another member of the Big Five, and still with this beautiful noise around us. So I think that we are just going to sit and listen to what nature is offering us at the moment. Some lowing buffalo and the noise of the thunder and the storm gathering around us. Well, wasn't that just beautiful? I think the scene really just speaks for itself.
Welcome back on board here with Mom and 3. That's how we ID tag these individuals. Here in Tswalu, we don't use names for individual animals. We just use a general ID tag so that we kind of know where these individuals are. So this is Mom and 3 currently that we are viewing. And then yesterday we would have had a brief sighting of the 2 males, call them the 2 dominant boys, or just the 2 boys. But what a special treat. If you look very closely, you'll see that that mantle is almost totally lost on these little, they've still got some long hairs there on the shoulder, on the neck section. But that beautiful silver mantle that they would have had from very young is now starting to diminish. And they lose that mantle, that crest, at about 3 months. And that mantle or crest is of vital importance for them being concealed when Mom goes off and hunts. Mom will stash them away in thick bush and she'll be gone for a day. Or, I remember tracking these little ones. Mom was gone for a day and a half. Sorry, I didn't catch the name there. The name, Owen? But I thought the question was, do cheetah have good eyesight? Cheetah have phenomenal eyesight. Their eyesight is obviously a very important function when it comes to hunting. So they are diurnal carnivores, so that means they're operating during the daylight hours. And sight, using their very acute sense of eyesight, is a way in how they first and foremost pick up on prey. And if you take a look at the size, the size of their eyes in comparison to their heads is phenomenal. But then they have an amazing ability, such as predatory birds. They have a large amount of cones inside the eye, which gives them obviously a great advantage to spot prey from a great distance. I've read that cheetah can spot prey up to about 2 kilometers. I'm sure it'll be a bit further than that, but 2 kilometers away they can spot a prey item. And just like predatory birds, those vast amount of cones is what gives them ability to have such phenomenal eyesight. And if you take a look at their eyes, they are huge in comparison to, for example, a lion. And that's what they need to do first. They first need to lock onto a prey item via eyesight, and from there they will make a progressive or increments. They'll progress in increments to get as close as possible to a prey item. They need to stalk within about 30-40 meters to have a successful chance of capturing a prey item. And obviously, if you think about their prey is fleeting. They have evolved. I'm just going to start eating. They have obviously evolved tactics to evade predators such as this. So sitting down, not using the paws, obviously a very clean eater in comparison to things like wild dogs. You'll see that cheetah will hardly ever use their paws to anchor their prey. They just use their mouth, nibbling into parts where they can get into where the soft, juicy flesh is. They'll consume heart, they'll consume liver. Obviously that's high in mineral content. But you'll see she'll bite and she'll twist her head, actually ripping off pieces. Alright, we're going to just sit tight here for you, and we're going to send you off to Dan very quickly, to look at a bird.
Good afternoon, everybody, and finally welcome to andBeyond and Ngala this afternoon. We've had a few issues, but we seem to be up and running. What we've got here is an African fish eagle, and I kind of thought about coming to a watering hole, particularly while we were waiting for some service to come back. This would be a really good place to spend some time and wait for things to come down to the watering hole. But how's it, guys? I'm Dan. On the camera this afternoon, we got BK. And what I did initially was we kind of went into a different part of the reserve. We haven't been spending much time here in the past few days. Kind of went down there, drove some awesome riverbeds, excuse me, and then came towards this watering hole where I thought it would be a great place to just sit and wait. In the time, there's a fish eagle that's come down, sitting really close to the water's edge there, and you'll often see it hop down right onto the ground and be on the water's edge there, literally fishing. And he'll wait for a fish to come too close, and he'll try and grab it and pull it out into the shore. Then he might even fly from there straight to the perch where he is now and feed off of this fish. I mean, there's also another interesting bird in the far left corner that we did have a look at. Let's see if BK can get it on the camera. Looks like an African spoonbill, and just from the color, and you see how it's even got its head in the water. So you'll see it put its head down. There's even looks like there's cattle egrets on this closer side. The camera's zooming in far better than I can even see. Looks like there's some western cattle egrets in the foreground as well. And that spoonbill right at the back, slightly bigger than the cattle egrets, will put its bill into the water, moving left to right, looking for food. And it's got an incredibly spoonbill shape to the bill. And then a couple of other things in the watering hole that we managed to see were some hippos. There's actually quite a lot of hippos. Some of them are starting to move around a bit more as well. I don't know if Beast can get that, or if you want me to move a bit forward. You can get it? Okay. So these ones have actually become quite inquisitive and come towards us. They started not too far away from where that spoonbill was, on the far side of the watering hole. And I think it is starting to get a bit late in the afternoon. Maybe even the presence of us and this funny noise coming in here encouraged them to come and investigate what was happening. And it's kind of woken them up a little bit as well. There's been a few calls. They've been making a little bit of noise and kind of preparing before this evening when they will leave this watering hole to spend the whole evening feeding on grass. It looks quite animated with those tiny ears and tiny eyes and that huge body that's kind of sticking out at the back. Wonder if there isn't a few smaller hippos in this watering hole. There seems to be quite a lot of them. No, that's a bit smaller. Maybe that's an older calf. It might just expose itself. Nope, looks like a normal-sized hippo. I'm going to keep a good look out here, see if we can't see any calves that might be swimming next to their mothers. It'll be quite obvious to see the size difference. It's amazing when they go underwater, all the ripples that kind of go, particularly when you zoom into ones that are like out of the water. There is actually a small one there, BK. Sorry, I just want to, and it was even opening its mouth and trying to push off mom. So look at the one in front there swimming to the left. There's two of them, in fact. Look how small they are. I wonder if one of them didn't like kind of bump into that bigger one, maybe being mom, maybe being a different hippo. Kind of pushed into them, opened their mouths, had a little bit of a push off, and then the little one kind of just swam off to the left. Or actually, they don't really swim at all. They're not very good swimmers. They actually spend most of their time running on the floor of the watering hole. I don't know if you copied that. They are starting to make those noises, starting to move around, starting to like socialize amongst each other. There's a big yawn, and just missed it. Oh, good spotting, Beaks. Look at how big that wave was. He had to really get out of the water. Jacobin cuckoo calling in the background. I don't know if you can copy that. All those ripples getting closer to the shore as well. You'll see as it starts to cool down, they'll start to move a little bit closer to that shore until they eventually leave. It's been an incredibly hot day. I mean, when we set out this afternoon, it was sitting at about 38 degrees, which was quite warm. But on a real hot day, I remember, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday, when those elephants were all at the watering hole, one of the hotter days that we had as well. And they all kind of migrated towards these little mud wallows and watering holes to cool themselves down. I was really hoping at this one in particular, I mean, the biggest one that we have here at andBeyond and Ngala, lots and lots of water, that if that wasn't going to attract a even larger herd than what we saw yesterday, maybe a few herds in fact combining. But it seems to be very quiet. There are a few impalas like on the far side. There's also normally a few crocodiles, which I had a good look out for. I haven't seen them. I mean, this time of the day, more often they're not right on the banks. I have done a good look around the whole bank to kind of see if there are any. So you'll see, I mean, we've discussed how they're almost waking up, these hippos. When they come in here during the day to sleep, and they spend their time during the day resting and sleeping. But you'll see the way that they do sleep, they kind of go under the water like they have there. For even a couple of minutes, up to 5 or even 6 minutes, they can hold their breath, go down underwater, and then float to the top to have a breath, then sink back down. And that's how they'll sleep the whole day. Doesn't sound like the most pleasant sleep at all. But I guess it's all relative. That fish eagle is just flown off. I'm not gonna. You see, he's actually just flown to the edge of the watering hole now. Let's see if he doesn't wander down. Remember, I was talking about it earlier. Coming down to the water's edge. Look at those cattle egrets in the background. Flying right towards us. It's quite pretty, actually, them flying over the water. Look at the shadows and the reflections on the water. Yes, you did a good job there, Beaks. That was very cool. So, I wonder if that fish eagle didn't even scare those cattle egrets. I mean, those cattle egrets weren't far. I wonder if that presence of that bird just kind of chased them away and caused them to fly. Going down, has this fish eagle got something in its talons? It's a little bit far to see, but can you see how it kind of bends over like that? And it's putting its bill right between its talons, almost as if it's got something, in fact. It's a little bit far to see exactly what, but when he did fly off, he did kind of scrape the water's edge. I wonder if he didn't pick up a small fish. See how it's definitely got something. You see how it puts its bill there, then pops its head up, and you see how it looks around, making sure that there's nothing that's going to sneak up on it. I don't know if you heard the hippos that time, but making sure that nothing's going to sneak up onto this bird and steal the fish. But that's very, very cool, huh? The colors of that fish eagle as well, beautiful. I mean, the white is so obvious, even at this distance, and I'd probably say almost 150 meters away from that. Watching very carefully, huh? And very closely. So I'm going to probably keep going. I've spent quite a lot of time here this afternoon at this watering hole. Let's see if I can't keep going and find something else interesting. In the meantime, I'm going to send you to Kyle and his cheetah.
A little cub getting tucked in there. I just would like to correct myself there. I'm not entirely spot on with what I answered there within regards to their eyesight. They actually have a very sensitive, they have light-sensitive cells in their retina, my apologies, that enable them to have very good vision. I mean, a cheetah can spot between 2 and 5 kilometers prey away from it. 2 to 5 kilometers. Just imagine seeing something between 2 to 5 kilometers. And that is remarkable. And that's because of those cells within inside the retina that gives them that remarkable ability. And obviously, eyesight is everything for them, hunting diurnally. So that is also like birds of prey, like I mentioned, where they'll also have those light-sensitive cells within the retina, enabling them and giving them phenomenal vision. So these little ones are having it really good at this point in time. Obviously the going is good when you're a young cub like this. How old are these cubs? They're between 3 and 4 months. That's a rough estimate. They were born, I think, somewhere mid-September, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, mid-September. So put them between 3 and 4 months of age. They're still fairly young and obviously relying on mom for everything at this point in time. Sorry, there's just another guard vehicle coming past us. Obviously relying on mom for everything. And I mean, she has got her work cut out for her. Cheetah, female cheetah, really are phenomenal mothers. I mean, doing this solo, bringing up and rearing these cubs to the best of her ability. Within a pride, there's multiple individuals that can, take duties and help out. But for a female cheetah, it's tough going. Lovely sight. They're almost starting to fill out now and starting to look like a cheetah themselves. But when they're very young, first month or two, they look like dark little balls of fluff. One little cub locked onto us. So this is where a portion or a section within the dental structure comes into vital play called the carnassial shear. So it's basically in between the canine and the molar, and it's a set of teeth or a pair of teeth on either side that basically have a scissor-like action, enabling the cat to cut through parts of the hide and items that it's feeding on. See how the little one's twisting its head to rip off pieces? And no paws used. just grabbing big chunks and then ripping them off. Wow. And they'll gorge themselves here now. Would the cubs be able to outrun a predator? It depends what predator. They are fairly quick at this stage. I mean, if they chase each other, you would actually be pleasantly surprised on their speed, in regards to their very young age. So something like, if they had seen a predator, there's many variables on that question. So if they saw the predator, from a long way away, getting a head start is very, very important. And then finding cover, obviously if they can't outrun the animal. But if you think of predators like wild dogs, you got 2 chances and they're both 0. Wild dogs have phenomenal stamina and they can outrun anything. So it depends what predator and obviously where the animals are. But they're very quick-footed, let's say even at this young age. So things like jackal and, if they had to run into a lion, they could more than likely get away. But I mean, that's where cheetah just have to be on high alert constantly. And that's why cheetah have larger litters in comparison to the other larger cats, and more frequently at that. And that's actually what we think is that that's what they're doing to combat the high mortality rate. But they are alert all the time, which obviously gives them a great advantage. If you see a predator or a threat from a way away, that means you have the advantage. Same as if a predator is hunting. A predator needs the advantage to be in its court. It needs to have the element of surprise to make a successful attempt on a hunt. So for these cats, remaining vigilant and being watchful all the time really allows them to survive and outwit and outsmart a lot of threats out here. But unfortunately it does happen, and it's something that needs to happen. And a springbok is a quick animal. A springbok at full tilt, it would be doing 88 odd kilometers. And if you think about antelope, they are very light-footed, and their ability to zigzag and make very quick turns is an advantage to them to outmaneuver a predator such as this. But a cheetah is very well suited to this game. They've specialized themselves in every manner, and they've sacrificed a lot for this specialist niche market, so to say. Well, we're going to enjoy these spots, and we're going to send you over to the leopard whisperer, and he's got some elephants.
We are indeed with Ellies at the moment. Unfortunately, the whole herd has crossed the road and disappeared already, so there's just one left that is busy moving. And so that's going to be the last we see of this particular herd of Ellies. I'm not going to be crashing around in the bush after them. But we're having a frustrating afternoon, not because the Ellies are going in the bush, but because of the fact that we've got tracks for Mulawati and a female, and there was a report of a leopard seen very close to where we have these tracks running across the road, which I expect is him. So I've been kind of driving around trying to find any sign, can't find any sign where that leopard apparently crossed the road. And we just stopped at these Ellies now and had audio for a leopard sawing not far away.
but just can't nail down where it is exactly. The elephants were making too much noise to hear precisely where it was. There was a particular young bull that was thrashing vegetation around in protest for whatever reason, so I can't hear nicely. And then there was a leopard, well, not was, there is a leopard, there's Monzo, but unfortunately we just don't have signal there, so we had to leave that area and come back this side. So I'm just going slowly up the road just to try and see if there is any sign of this leopard coming out again. But the audio was difficult because I had an earpiece in, and it just so happened that the game drive radio was going, elephants making noise, so hearing exactly where that leopard was tricky. It was also far enough away that it was a little bit indistinct, so it wasn't easy to hear. It wasn't close, so I think this must be calling from either somewhere kind of up the road here or maybe a little bit further to our east. The problem is that the signal drops off drastically as we go down the slope on this eastern side, so it's not really an area we can explore too much. But I'm just driving slowly up here in the hope that maybe we see something. I'll also turn off and just listen. It could be Mulawati just avoiding us and doing loops around us. It's possible, but like I said in the beginning, if we don't try, we'll never know, and we'll never kind of get him right. The more we kind of is around, the more we need to try and be in the area, and eventually, hopefully, he kind of just starts to understand that we're not trying to chase him. I mean, it feels like a bit of a lost cause sometimes, but you've got to put a bit of effort in sometimes. It can't always be easy, and so, well, we're trying. Whether or not it's going to work, I don't know. But it's intriguing that there's also a female track around here. It must be for Tlalamba because we tracked her to here yesterday morning. So she must have been around during the evening, and maybe he's picked up her scent. We do know she's been calling a lot, scent marking a lot, so maybe she's coming into an estrus cycle. I don't know. We're just kind of surmising, but it's possible that that could be what's happening right now. It could even be her calling, for all I know. She's been fairly vocal in the last few months, so it's very, very possible. I just want to turn off here and listen again, just in case we hear some sort of audio. If it is Mulawati, I'll be surprised that he's calling at this time of the day, given that it's still quite early. It's not exactly late in the evening, but I suppose with the dark clouds, maybe he's just trying to kind of establish his sort of dominance or trying to look for Tlalamba. I don't know. We'll have to just wait and see, but it was definitely a leopard calling, and we'll just have to listen and slowly but surely kind of loop, and eventually, hopefully, we'll find it. But the problem is this particular block, if it is in this one here, is monstrous. I don't know where my map is at the moment. There it is there. Sorry, I'll try and show you now what I'm talking about. So to give you an idea, where we are right now is just here on Cheetah Cutline. So where I think that calling is coming from is this block here, which is a very, very big area. If you look at the sort of total size of Djuma, I mean, you see that. It's almost kind of, I would say, maybe 1/6 of Djuma, this little block. So if he's in there or she's in there, it's going to take a long time. Now, where they thought they saw a leopard crossing is about where the E is on Cheetah Cutline, kind of coming across. But the guys saw it from this boundary, so they couldn't be 100% sure if it was a leopard or not. I came up here not long after that and found a herd of Impala crossing the road. But maybe it was a leopard that was hunting the Impala and was just trotting across to try and get to them. I don't know. Could have been a number of different things, but there's definitely audio for one around, so we'll just have to be patient and listen and drive a little bit and stop, and drive a little bit and stop, and then hopefully a track pops out either onto a pipe road or Terminalia road or somewhere here, and we'll be able to figure out who it is. If it is Tlalamba, her general direction when she comes into Torchwood is she comes here and she hugs this sort of western boundary and moves down southwards, and then she goes down all the way to kind of Gari main area. So this is where her route has kind of been, and that's because Thandi is around this section with the cubs pretty much all the time. Yesterday when I left those three leopards, Kuchava's cub was actually coming towards Gari Main at the bottom, but the other two were going south. But I suspect that Thandi would have come back to the cub here. I don't think that she's too worried about Kuchava pushing up towards First Rock in that area, but she should be worried about Kalahari. So for now, Kalahari's still there, but maybe she's going to push a little bit if she's following a male. You never know. With these female leopards, they can go quite a long way out of their territory when they want to. Now, a lot of you might be wondering in relation to where we are now, how far Tingana is. So Tingana currently is all the way over there. So he's right in the center of Djuma. This distance here, while it looks quite far on a map, is probably a good night's walk for a leopard. It's not difficult for Tingana to cover this area, but if he's hearing leopards sawing and it's a male, you probably find he's not going to move in this direction, or maybe he will. I don't know. It hasn't really been doing that, so I'd be surprised if he does. Anyway, we'll sit here, we'll listen, maybe we'll get lucky. Hopefully something will show up at some point.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first WildEarth Explorers fireside chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm coming to you from Eco Training here on Pridelands. My most favorite animal in Africa has to be the elephant that's behind me, and this is Kumo, you'll meet him. But elephants just in general, they're really sociable, they're always doing something, and I love to see the interactions between the members of the herd.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent andBeyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. So just talking about the question that was asked earlier, obviously this little cub will not be able to outrun a fully grown lion. And lions are their biggest predators or their biggest threat. A large portion of cheetah deaths are lion related. And that's because lions are super sneaky, especially under the cover of darkness. So definitely their largest threat. But that little one is fairly light-footed at this stage. But other threats would be things like hyenas, spotted hyena, and even birds of prey. If you think about a month ago, they would have been very vulnerable to a large eagle, for example. I've even read about secretary birds killing cheetah. So they have multiple threats, which just makes it so hard for an individual to make it to maturity. And when a cheetah does do that, reaches a stage where it is active and is able to reproduce, that animal has dodged all odds and is basically successful in its own right. To be able to reach that age, it is unbelievable. So yeah, will not be able to outrun a lion, but they are fairly quick-footed. I mean, we saw a couple of days ago that cheetah being taken out by a crocodile. So it depends what predator is and obviously what the situation is. It's a very variable question that we could obviously talk at length about. But Mom taking her turn there just to put a little nourishment back into her body. Obviously the energy output she would have gone through now to take this animal down would have been quite a lot. And she'd have to be very careful when it comes to that leaner period where they haven't had a meal for a couple of days. They have to ensure that, if they're going to hunt, it has to be successful. you'd find almost 6 out of 10 hunts are unsuccessful. Just shows you there's even that variable that makes things even harder. Oh, when will the cubs start helping their mom with hunting? Anywhere from about 10, 11 months, they'll start getting involved in actually holding on to a prey item. And a cheetah mother is a very devoted mom, so she actually, puts hurdles in front of them for them to learn in the correct manner. So she'll bring back small items that she hasn't killed properly yet, and she'll actually allow these little ones to take hold of this prey item, to really start learning the ropes of what to do. Because it's very tricky your first time when, imagine, you get brought your meal and your meal is alive and you have to deal with it. Your baboons. Also another big threat for cheetah. If they had to find one of these cheetah cubs, now a baboon they could outrun. But if a baboon had to get one of these cubs, that'll be disastrous. And that's a very vicious and very aggressive predator. So looking at when they start hunting, I would say between 10 and 11 months, that's when they really start getting involved. And then from there, they'll actively go out on hunts with mom. And obviously now, the added individuals really becomes a hindrance for mom. Obviously, their skills aren't as acquired or aren't as sharp as mom's. So they actually ruin a lot of the hunts for her. But that's needed. They have to learn in that manner to become successful cheetahs. Know when to move, how to move, available cover, watch the wind. It's all tricky for a cheetah. So mom would definitely provide solidly for them from between 6 and 12 months. And then in that 10, 11 month period, that's when they start getting involved into this. And then from 12 months on, they should be fairly successful at it. Well, give or take. They're still learning. And then obviously 18 months, they'll start really finding their footing. They're independent about 18 months. So at this period, mom is still very, very devoted. And they are very lucky to have a mom like that. CNAC, I just got parts of the question. Sorry, the comms are very bad here. But something about copulation in males, multiple copulation with females, I think the question was. So males are territorial, and obviously if you look at cheetah, they form coalitions. And within a coalition, you are more dominating, more powerful force. And you can obviously have rights to very successful or high productive areas. And within these areas, not only having prey availability, but in turn that prey availability attracts females within your territory. And so if you look at a female when she's in estrus, her urine will change, and that, with pheromones and chemically her body will change, and that will obviously come through in the urine. So if females get attracted into this area because it's a high productive area, they would go in search of that female. And that could be multiple females within a given area. So the better you are suited within a given area, the more access you have to food, and as well as females. And if you think about evolutionary traits and the drive behind it, there's nothing to push it forward harder than anything else than to reproduce and to feed. So a male will mate with multiple females in a given area. And that's what the male is driven by. He wants to send his genes, his genetic code, into obviously the gene pool. And the drive to reproduce is very strong amongst multiple organisms and very strong with cheetah. I mean, if we've caught brief glimpses of how aggressive those two males are or were, when they found this mother. And they can be very dominating when it comes to the mating ritual. It can be a very aggressive affair. But yes, a male cheetah will mate with multiple females. There's no limit, let's say it on that. Obviously stamina, but there's no limit to say only one female. If you can have multiple reproductive partners, that is even better for you. It is a perfect afternoon again. I know I keep on saying that, but it is. We got you guys on board. We're sitting here in this beautiful, pristine environment. We've got the luxury of watching a fairly endangered species. 7,500 of them worldwide. So all in all, what a great afternoon. And then also to see that these little cubs are still doing well is a cherry on top of the cake for me today. Because we do get involved and we do get attached to these animals. Talking about exciting stuff, please would you guys, if you do have a moment or two, take a look at that new initiative and sign up. The WildEarth.tv/explorers for a very exciting and new initiative that has just taken off. For all the thrill seekers out there, or just want to get more involved, or want to understand more, please take a look at it. It is very, very, very exciting. So, for example, like the cicada that you can hear in the background, that male is singing, producing the sound at his best to try and ensure that he gets as many mates as possible. With these individuals, cheetah, that's different, obviously, but it's still that basic driving factor, the urge to reproduce, is unbelievable. Animals go through very extensive and elaborate lengths to attract a mate, to ensure that they're reproductive. Brenda, good afternoon. Do cheetahs eat bones? I've seen them nibble and gnaw on thin, small bones, but they do not have the jaw capacity or the jaw power in order to really get onto thicker bones. That'll be left for a specialist like the hyena. Hyena's obviously got a very, very powerful jaw. In terms of power, they can exert about 1,000 plus pounds per square inch of bite. And that is a tremendous amount of force. They snap bones like toothpicks. Whereas in cheetah, it's about the 500 mark pounds per square inch. So they don't have a tremendously strong bite force in order to cope with larger bones. Smaller bones, maybe on a young antelope, they could definitely break through, but they won't go after bones such as this. Mom will eat around the bones. And if you think about the cheetah's dental structure, it's smaller than that of a lion. So she has the ability to sneak in there and get all the little bits in between the bones. So she doesn't really have to go for the bones. The bone is valuable. If you think about a hyena, they go for bone because of what's inside the bone, which is marrow, which is obviously a very high-priced item. But then you need the tools necessary to get into that bone. Whereas in she's just after the good soft meat, and obviously some of the intestinal organs, heart, liver, lungs, kidneys, that's what she'll eat. The intestines themselves, she'll scrape out and she'll discard those. But small bones from young antelope, they could be broken and consumed. But still a lot left behind. And then once the bones are left behind, you get things like giraffe eating the bones. You get the giraffe eating it. You can have, what else? Hyenas eating it. When the hyena eats it, the scat is high in calcium. And then you get a tortoise that eats it. Obviously, the tortoise, to develop its shell, needs extra calcium. So it'll consume the scat of the hyena that's consumed the bone. It's a remarkable circle. We're going to send you off to Taylor, and she has got a bird for you guys.
Well, Leopard Dam seems to be the spot this evening, as we've got the last of the golden rays as they poke through the clouds on a beautiful grey heron. And it is actively fishing at the moment. You can see the focus on its face. It's moving its feet ever so slightly. And hopefully it's going to pull its neck back a bit more and then shoot it forward and catch, I'm going to go with the frog. What do you think, Sebastian? Frog or fish? Frog. Yeah, Sebastian also thinks frog. But it's hunting just underneath those sort of overhanging branches, so perhaps there's some little barbel or small catfish moving around. There are quite a few insects and things causing a bit of disturbance on the water, but that's not really what it's going to be going for. It needs something a bit more substantial than a water strider or whatever may be causing those ripples. Come on, heron. We're all waiting here. Always funny when they poke their tongues out. Got rather sharp tongues, very pointed, quite slender. No luck. And then, of course, you can see the foam nest, frog nest, that's just behind it, in case you're wondering what that white fluffy stuff is. There will be plenty of them all jotted around the watering holes at this time of year, even all the pans and that type of thing. Not that heron would go digging around and that, they wouldn't be very tasty. And again, not very well developed, not quite the snack that this heron will be looking for. Quite interesting. Every now and then we see them, I suppose, yawn. And that's always fascinating to see their tongues. Strange looking things. Like a little earthworm poking out of its mouth. I don't know what it's doing. Why are you doing that? It did, just before we went live, it did actually strike into the water. Obviously not successful. And I wonder how many times throughout the day a heron would have to strike to actively catch something. But again, they're very much opportunistic. Lisa, it is a beautiful heron. It's gorgeous. It's really, really stunning. And it would be even more stunning if it could catch itself a bit of sushi. That might not be the case. But this dam would be filled with frogs and fish. I'm sure there's lots of little tilapia. And like I said, definitely the prominent fish species that we see is the catfish, or a barbel is another name for it. But now this heron is not making any real attempts to do some fishing. Maybe it's just patiently waiting though. That could be another technique. To just stand there and hope that something comes towards its feet. Well, every now and then you see a bit of a twinkle in its eye, don't you? A little sparkle of hope. And that's what that bird is actually doing. It's not trying to feel for any vibrations or anything in the water. It's actively looking for that flash of silver. Or, maybe the mud as it's disturbed and a frog sort of moves from one spot to the other. There are lots of different types of frog species in here. I suspect that there's lots of platanas as well, which is a frog species you don't always get to see because they exclusively live in water. They don't come out onto land at all. And then, of course, the foam nest frogs, so you'll see them around. Maybe not spending so much time in the water, but rather perched on a branch. Definitely reed frogs, cacos, bubbling cassinas, you name it. All lingering about the water's edge. Although the amphibian species have gone quiet. Just been hearing the bushveld rain frogs mostly in the evening and the odd raucous toad. But otherwise, that's about it. I suppose the breeding is done after the first big rains that we've had. But you can hear it's fairly quiet at the dam. You can hear the Aramark babblers in the distance. They're quite far away. Normally always a ring-necked dove calling too, but not today. And there's almost not even a breeze. It's actually sickeningly hot at the moment. And Tristan described it very well, like being wrapped in a warm blanket. I think the cool water on this heron's legs will be quite nice and cooling. And that's maybe something that the lions would enjoy if they were brave enough to take the plunge into a bit of water.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, everybody. So I thought it would be a good idea to come and follow up where... Oh, just listen quickly. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a greater honeyguide that's calling. Quite a cool bird, actually. Not one that we hear too often. Now back to lions, sorry. So we decided to come and follow up where we left these three this morning, and they walked quite far. I don't know if you remember watching them, particularly these little cubs would kind of lie down at stages and say, I'm ready to sleep here, but mom would keep going. And then when she decided she was going to stop, then there were Impala's alarm calling. So they've walked quite far today. I mean, the cubs' heads are already up, but look how flat and tired mom is. She's really trying to conserve energy. Not even a flick of an ear. She's really out, breathing slowly. Oh, swallow. But, so I thought I'd come here, see if there's any activity. I mean, you can often count on the little ones to be moving around. Look at how this one's also, there's a bit of ear movement. Yeah, so fast asleep, enjoying that cooler grass, I'm sure. And I also came and sat here, and particularly while we're sitting here, the tracks of that male lion that I was following this morning as well, they kind of cut off not far away from here, which made me kind of think that maybe she's going towards them. So yesterday as well, remember that male lion roared incredibly early, even earlier than it is now. And if he does call, it'll be interesting to see what their response is. This would be quite interesting to go and find him and see if we can't follow him. Tracks of the rest of the pride, or it looked like the rest of them kind of crossed into the Kruger this morning. So that roaring might encourage them to come back for tomorrow morning as well. Yeah, this one's staring right at us. Don't know if he's trying to decide whether to fall asleep or just keep watching us. This big, interesting shape in front of it. So, I mean, it's always interesting to see how these animals kind of develop and react around vehicles. And it takes a long time to get animals, that we say, habituated to how these vehicles sound, how they smell, how they move. But a lot of it goes into actually the sensitivities around it. You've got to try and be as respectful as you can towards these animals. And if you ever kind of see any reaction from them when you're starting to come close, it's kind of a good idea to stop and then view from there. That's them saying you're too close. And through processes like that, you actually get them to become more comfortable. And they almost see this vehicle as a natural shape or a big animal. I mean, vehicles in terms of history and things are quite a new invention. And they've never really had a reason to be threatened by a vehicle. And because of that, they behave quite relaxed, as if we weren't even here. Whereas people, you'll see if you get out of the vehicle or even stand up in this kind of a position, they'll realize you very quickly, that very familiar shape of a human, which since the beginning of time has almost been a predator to these animals. It's ingrained in them. So you'll see when you're on foot or when you stand up in a vehicle like this and you break that natural, that great big vehicle shape into a human that's standing up, they react completely differently. Wonder if that one on the left, the little one on the left with its back legs open, isn't enjoying this. And there's not much wind out here, which I'm a bit upset about because it's still incredibly hot. So I'm going to send you over to Tristan with his baby leopard while I spend a bit more time with these three.
It is very, very warm, which is why Tingana is sleeping now. So we left the area where that leopard was calling. Unfortunately, not a lot of signal. And unfortunately, Trish also had to head back to camp with a couple of issues. And Theo's not feeling very well, so they're not back out. So I thought it would be better just to come back here for two reasons. One, there we were struggling a little bit with where it was and the signal and various other things. But two, we were also there's a lot of potential for a lot of different things to happen here on quarantine this evening, because where Tingana is right now is kind of in the middle of quarantine, and about, I would say it's probably about 200 meters from where we are, up in that corner, kind of where those marula thickets are, down at the edge, where it starts to get thick is where the lions are at the moment. So they're still very, very close to one another. The wildebeest are kind of slowly edging kind of towards these guys and in between them. So there's going to be prey animals, there's going to be lion and a leopard, and lots can kind of happen. Initially we would have left this to Trish because she was here this afternoon, but because she went back home, it made more sense just to come and see what happens rather than, you know, things happening without us being here and me kind of scratching around without anything in a fairly kind of dodgy area from a signal point of view. Anyway, Tingana is fast asleep. He went for a little afternoon walk, and now he's kind of having a nap. I think he's just biding his time. He's waiting for it to get dark, much like what the lions are. So both predators have the same idea, but you would think Tingana would have learned from this morning that there are lions here and not to kind of stay in the area. But for some reason, he's decided that, well, he's going to try and just outweight the lions, but I suspect he's going to have a losing battle here. The lions are kind of peering up towards where these wildebeest are. When I saw them, when I was trying to find him, we just briefly saw their heads from a distance. And so I think that they're going to be interested in hunting those wildebeest as he's going to be interested in hunting lambs. Hopefully, though, the lions get up and start hunting first. He sees them and he doesn't get himself into trouble, because if he tries to make a kill and he's successful, these lions will be on him pretty quickly and he's going to have another rough evening. So he's going to have to be really careful tonight. It's always a concern when you have lions and leopards in such close proximity, particularly at this time of the day where both parties are going to be getting active again and starting to look for food. It always can bring about a little bit of a clash. Obviously, if the lions kill, he's not going to go anywhere near it. He won't rush to where the lions are. But, you know, if he's the first one to move, then definitely going to be an issue, that's for sure. The lions, the leopards, the wildebeest, the impalas, it's plenty happening so close to camp, which is amazing for this time of the year. Grace, you're asking, are they at risk when they're asleep? Can be. If they're sleeping for too long and they end up in a situation where, well, not too long probably, they're in a deep sleep in a thicker area and they don't see something coming, then they can be at risk. Sometimes cats can be attacked like that. But generally, no. They're very aware of their surroundings. So even though he looks as though he's kind of completely out and fast asleep, if I were to go there and try and kind of, you know, move around, or even now if I stepped out of the car, he would bolt upright immediately. So while they are asleep, they're still very aware of their surroundings. Noise, smells will often wake them up a little bit, and they'll open their eyes or they'll listen. And if things get a bit closer, then they pop upright and look in that direction. So I mean, they're a little bit at risk, I suppose, from another cat that's stealthy, but otherwise, no, not really. They pretty much hear most things coming and are able to deal with it. Find it when they're most vulnerable is when they're weak. So like when he was in 2000, and I've got to remember now when he was feeling so down. It was the beginning of 2018. End of 2017, beginning of 2018, he was then at great risk when he was sleeping because his condition was very, very poor. And so even if something found him, his ability to defend himself was almost zero. Whereas now he's fit and healthy, and you saw this morning with those lions, is when he got close, he was able to kind of see them and run pretty quickly and up into a tree. If he's in a weakened state, that ability to do those things is compromised, and therefore resting and sleeping like that in a weakened state can often lead to quite a lot of danger for a leopard or lion or whatever it may be that's in that compromised position. Amazing how sleepy he is, though. It's been a long day and a hot day for Tingana.
It started pretty early this morning with being chased by hyenas, then chased by lions, then the heat came. I'm pretty sure he's quite happy just to have a little bit of a nap. But I'm so glad we're seeing a lot of him. It seems crazy to think that 3 months ago we were questioning where Tingana was, what he was doing, where he had disappeared to. We weren't seeing any signs of him anymore. And all of a sudden in the last couple of weeks he's been a much more permanent feature of the Djuma landscape, that's for sure. What have you heard, boy? Whatever it was has woken him up, that's for sure. He's just gone bolt upright, and you see he's got quite an alert look on his face. An elephant shouting. Don't hear anything else. I mean, there is a car, obviously, but that shouldn't have woken him. He didn't wake up for us. Maybe it's the lions. Maybe they made a little bit of a noise. But you can see, look how he's looking down in the direction of where the lions were. What's wrong, boy? What woke you? Something disturbed him, that's for sure. Anyway, we'll sit with them and see what happens. There's, like I say, lots of potential. Hopefully, he'll keep out of trouble this evening, though.
What a wonderful way to spend an afternoon with these majestic creatures. It's an absolute privilege and honor to have seen these cats before and watch them grow to this stage. A bit of grooming going on there. Lovely. A bit of sibling love. It's very important. But such a beautiful sight. Mom just nibbling away there on the carcass. And the little ones' tummies are so full, I think they've given up for a little while. Gentle breeze blowing in from the west. Sun still warm. But definitely the cool of the evening is approaching us. It's almost where life can take a nice deep breath and things are kind of okay. It's not so harsh and hot, but just perfect.
As you can see, it's a beautiful evening on quarantine. It's very pleasant just to sit here. We've been left now by ourselves and there's no noise. There's just the sounds of nature and a leopard, 3 lions and elephants. Oh, the lions are about to get chased. You can see an elephant walking straight at them. Right in the distance. It's going to be behind a whole bunch of bushes. I mean, we can try get there and see if we get there in time. Let's see. Let's try. There's a whole herd walking at them. Come on, Rusty. They'll come back to Tingana now. Hold on. Tingana's not going to go anywhere, so we don't have to worry too much about that. The lions might have already moved because of these ellies. Like I was saying with ellies in the past, is that wild dogs are something they don't like, but lions too. Lions are obviously dangerous for a
elephant, and so when ellies see them, typically they're not hugely impressed with them being around and will normally chase them, but they're coming straight down the road to where theoretically the lions, well, where I last saw them anyway. Here they are here. So let's see if the ellies come and chase them. You guys are about to get moved, I'm afraid. Like you chased a leopard this morning, you're about to get moved yourself. You can see, there we go, there's the elephant in front of the lions. At this stage, it looks as though the kind of ellies might bypass that lead group, but there's another 3 that are coming from the right that might just cause a bit of havoc. But we had ellie and leopard yesterday, ellie and lions today. Isn't it crazy that 3 of the most iconic animals in Africa that people travel the world to see are within 100 meters of each other at the moment? It's just ridiculous to me when you see these kinds of sights. Sometimes we forget how spoiled we are in the Sabi Sands. It's ridiculous, the level of interactions we get between the animals here from, like I say, predator relationships in terms of like hyenas and lions, hyenas and leopards, leopards and lions, but then also interspecies sightings like this where you get multiple species in a same place, which is crazy. Now, I'll imagine that these 3 lions, you can see they're watching the ellies quite carefully. The ellies that are going to be the problem are the ones coming from the right. So there's an elephant mother with a tiny little baby that's walking towards that lioness now. That's going to be the one that they're going to need to be a little bit careful of, because she is going to be super defensive of that little calf. It's a tiny, tiny little baby. You can see it almost fits underneath mom. And so that's not going to go down well if that ellie sees those lions with her tiny baby. She's going to make a lot of noise, which will bring all the other elephants out to help in the sort of defense of that little calf and the herd itself. So we'll just have to see what happens now. Temba, because when you are 180 kilograms and something that weighs 4,000 kilograms bears down on you with anger and fury and wants to squash you, you'd also be pretty scared of it. Elephants know that lions are a threat to them, and so they often will throw their weight around to try and chase the lions away so that they don't hurt them. But an elephant is supremely strong. It's way stronger than what the lions are. I mean, everyone always gives lions the king of the jungle tag, but actually out here, elephants really are the kind of the boss of the game. They don't stand back for anybody. Here we go. This elephant is on a crash course straight towards the lions. And it just moves slightly, just to give us a better view, but because the way the bush is lined up, it's not kind of helping a little bit. I mean, lions are going to scatter regardless of what happens. What I'm intrigued to see is how the ellies that cross the road, how they're going to react to all of this. Yeah. Luckily, we've got a nice dense thicket in front of us, so if any ellies come out, we're not going to have to worry too much. They're certainly not going to come at us, that's for sure. There's this beautiful orange glow, though, that's all of a sudden come out. You see even the little ellies have taken on a more orange appearance in the grass itself, and the the sky has just all of a sudden kind of gone on fire. But look at that. Isn't that cool? Like I say, that little baby in parts of Africa, so not here so much because our lions don't see that as food, but that little baby in places like Wangi, Savuti, that would be something that lions might try and have a go at. Our lions here don't see that as food, though. But watch. You can see she's watching very carefully, and she's debating whether to go or to just sit quietly in the hope that they pass by. It's much like what we saw from Tundi yesterday. How there is no wind whatsoever, so it's probably why the ellies haven't picked them up. Also remember, the lions haven't come from that direction. The lions have come from my side, so the ellies probably don't know that they're there. But isn't that ridiculous? That's so cool. little baby. Be careful. Can never be too sure. Though watching the lionesses, one is only watching these ellies. The other two couldn't be asked at all to do anything about it. So I don't think we're going to see them kind of trying to hunt that baby, but at the same time, you've also got a situation where now look at the rest coming down the road. What did I tell you? The whole herd will come. See how the whole herd comes to the aid. Isn't that incredible? So everybody hears that trumpet and knows immediately that they need to come to the defense of the little baby. And so the whole herd has come through, bulls everybody, and they form a united force. And they'll from there be able to then push the lions away. And you can see they're smelling where the lions were sitting. It's exactly the same behavior that we saw yesterday with the ellie chasing Kuchava and cub. A very, very similar situation, except yesterday that young bull wasn't too perturbed, but because this is a cow with a little one, she screamed and the whole herd has come quickly in order to try and help her stay safe. The little baby pushed to the middle, everybody on the sides, and all is well that ends well. The lions have just moved off a little bit and lay back down again. They've gone completely flat. They're not too worried. They know they got pushed off far enough and everything is back to normal again, except for that elephant's ear, which, as you can see, is slightly bent over and not looking great. What a weird thing. I remember last year, or this year actually, sorry, in January, February, was all of a sudden we got a massive increase in elephants with this exact problem, where this ear folds over, and it's almost like the cartilage is damaged, so it like kind of turns down, and the elephant's ear flops. And we saw a number of different individuals with it, and I tried to find out and ask a lot of people, had they ever seen it and why it was all of a sudden so much more prevalent than it has been in the past, because every now and then you see it, but this particular Jan Feb, it was really everywhere. And I was wondering if it was maybe due to drought years, that there was a lack of nutrients, that maybe the cartilage is not developing properly and therefore falling over. So I was kind of trying to find out, but no one really had the answer for me as to whether or not that could be a problem. But certainly been a lot more noticeable of late. I'm trying to see if I can see where Tingana is from here, but I can't see him. He would have heard this commotion and watched, but I doubt that he's moved. I'm pretty sure he's just staring at what's going on. But wasn't that cool? It was absolutely amazing. And the sunset is also spectacular. Talking of which, Dan sounds like he has got an amazing sunset on his side.
Welcome to our lovely sunset this afternoon. And I've kind of just popped into the riverbed, and if you look at the bottom of your screen, you can probably see almost 500 meters of riverbed before it turns away. And that sky above it is just magnificent. The dense banks on either side, this incredible tree canopy that goes along the banks of this riverbed with that stunning sunset in the background. Something that you don't really ever get used to be fair. Particularly in wintertime, being able to watch every sunrise and every sunset is quite a privilege. And the colors, I mean, you sit here just watching and the colors change every few minutes, even every few seconds. It's that time of the day when lots of birds are calling. They're kind of finding a place to rest for the evening or to roost. Lots of them calling to each other, making sure they know where everybody is. And you'll see tomorrow morning they'll do exactly the same thing. so many different layers in that sky as well. I mean, the different clouds are producing different colors. And you'll see it'll go more from an orange, yellow now to maybe like a more pink, red as it gets a little bit later. But it's amazing how quickly it disappears, the color. So if you're not careful, you kind of just miss it. Isn't it just, Horse Lover, isn't it just amazing? I agree with you. So I was just talking about the red color. As we zoom out a little bit, look at on the right-hand side there. Look at how that's gone purple. That's crazy, huh? And just the silhouettes of the trees. It's almost like a fire that's burning. It really is beautiful. I mean, it's a really good idea to just keep quiet sometimes and just listen to what's going on around us. All sorts of birds calling in the background. It really is an amazing time of day. It's my favorite, in fact. Some people prefer waking up in the mornings and seeing the sunrise. To be fair, I struggle a little bit to get out of bed sometimes, so the sunset for me definitely takes the cake. It's amazing how the colors are so different in certain sections. Different clouds with different densities, reflecting the light differently. You'll see there'll be a lot of dust and things which also add to the color. You'll see particular sunset after rain is also beautiful. I mean, the sky is completely clear and you can see much further as well. So this kind of image is so much clearer, particularly after a big rainstorm, settling all the dust around. You can even hear frogs starting to call. So I'm going to keep going in this riverbed, and it is that time of day when the nocturnal animals are starting to move around. Maybe if we're very lucky, we might find a leopard on our way back in this riverbed.
Very exciting times when the nocturnals start coming out. Good luck, Dan. I'm sure you will find what you're looking for. These little ones have decided it is time for seconds. You can see one. There's a little ram. The one's belly is so full on the right. You get the one on the right. Look how full this little one's belly is. There's a food baby in there, folks. And they have to gorge themselves like this in case of a threat that presents itself in the area, and they need to book it. They need to ensure that they have fed enough. They have got enough nourishment from this carcass. If the unlikely event of another predator rocking up here, and if they book it, they're booking it with full tummies. And that's typically what cheetah do, is that they will sit down in a carcass, they will eat, they'll gorge themselves actually. And once they are finished, they are out of there. But you can see Mom still being very vigilant, because it's getting more and more risky, let me say that, because night is starting to approach, and that's when other larger carnivores start roaming about. She's also decided that it's time for her to tuck into a bit more. I don't know where she's finding the extra space. Must have a secret pouch somewhere. Their tails are starting to develop quite nicely. You can hear them just pulling past some ligaments there. So they've now started on the shoulders of this little springbok. That's what Mommy has brought down for them this afternoon. They're just twisting. Oh, that dummy is so big. Well, when would they eat again? Miss Carol, this would sustain them for about 3-4 days. And then within that 3rd to 4th day, Mom would really be scouting for any available prey. So if you look at the prey range of cheetah, they're fairly limited because of their lightweight build or frame. So they need to go for small to medium-sized animals, and this Springbok is perfect for her to tackle. So in the 3rd, 4th day, they will start looking for something, and, cheetah can go 5, 6, 7 days. But yeah, so once you still have a bit of food in your tummy, you still have a lot of energy, that's when you're going to start the process of looking for the next meal. But 3-4 days on average. Obviously it would waver depending where you are, depending if you're in the Eastern Cape or if you were in Djuma or if you were in Namibia, for example. But the general consensus, every 3-4 days, they would try and actively hunt. But ensuring that they get as much as they possibly can of this carcass now is a very important thing, because you want enough food in your tummy to push you 3 to 4 days. And also there's small dental structure that also pushes them into a category of only going for small to medium-sized animals.
WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first WildEarth Explorers fireside chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
As you can see, our lions are on the move, so we're just following them. Tingana is still sitting. They managed to move away from where he was and didn't disturb him. And so they are now kind of on the way. And so we're just following them to see where they head. I suspect they're going to go to maybe Treehouse Dam, somewhere there for water. That's where we're kind of heading. We're heading straight south at the moment. So I'm thinking that's where they're going to go. It's been a hot day, so water will be a priority, but isn't it amazing how the bush works? I think it's quite funny. you can be the bully one moment, and then you are being bullied the next. So from this morning where they were doing the chasing, they got a taste of their own medicine this afternoon, where they were chased themselves. You can see how quickly they scattered. They don't stay long when elephants put the foot down. These guys know that it's then time to get out of the way pretty quickly, otherwise it's going to be pretty dangerous for them. We're trying to just kind of roll with them. They're moving pretty much to where I expect them. In fact, I'm going to go around them and we'll catch them coming out, because it's going to be difficult to film them through all of this. So let's just go around this little 2-track. Will spit us out exactly where they're going to come. They're going to be just in front of us fairly shortly. Just need a little bit of light of my own just to see where I'm going. Now they should come. There's a big game path that runs along. It's kind of running parallel with me at the moment, and so it should join me in the next probably about 10 meters. We'll see them kind of emerging out of this thicket. I'm just going to get through here, and then we'll turn around and they'll come out, hopefully, if all goes according to plan, exactly here where we are now. Like I said, we're just going to do a bit of a turn quickly so that we can face them. And there we go. They're coming straight to where we are. Well, that worked out quite nicely, didn't it? I was hoping they were going to walk to where I am, and they have. Sometimes it's nice when plans come together. They don't always work out like this. A lot of the time you try and kind of have a bit of a prediction and they go the opposite way. Leopards are great for that, particularly Kalamba and Thandi. But lions are a little bit more predictable in their movements. They have a very specific way that they like to walk. They're typically pathway animals, and they don't really break that path for much. They're pretty happy to kind of just plod along, so you can always kind of tell where they are and which way they want to go. Calvin, anytime really. I've seen lions hunting at night, during the day, early morning, late afternoon. When the opportunity presents itself is the best time to hunt. That's how I always see it. These guys will go after things whenever they present, but their kind of whole setup is designed to be better at night. So they're designed to kind of, or have evolved or developed to be much more capable of hunting in the nighttime than what you can see. This lioness is pretty happy to walk right by the car, as is the next lioness. They've kind of gotten to the point where their eyesight, their hearing, their sense of smell, their whiskers, all of this makes for a kind of lethal weapon in the nighttime. They have an advantage over their prey animals at night, and so it's often a lot easier for them at that point. But it's not to say that they won't hunt during the day as well. That was lovely, wasn't it? Nice to have lions walk past. Let's see where they're going to go from here. I'm almost certain they're going to Treehouse Dam. They're going to walk right past the hyena dens, and they're going to go to Treehouse Dam. If they don't, then I'm going to be in trouble, aren't I? But that's what I suspect that they're about to do. They're walking in that right general vicinity. The most epic sunset tonight as well. The sky was an absolute fire. There was this beautiful orange that popped out of the sky, much more so than even last night. And last night we had a great sunset too, especially with that leopard in the tree. It was amazing. But tonight the color is just that much more intense than it was last night. Okay, well, we're going to carry on following the girls. Let's see where they go. Hopefully they're going to head down towards Treehouse for a little drink. In the meantime, let's send you to Kyle with some other cats that are having a meal.
What? Tristan following a lion? I don't think that's right. I think I heard that incorrectly. These little ones are full of food. And they just snuck around the tree there now to laze about. And Mom's still enjoying herself, enjoying her prize. It's got to be such a rewarding feeling. If you're capturing your own food like that, you know, when you lay back and you take everything in, it must be such a humbling sensation. I don't know if they have or feel that, you know, humbled. I don't think so, but if I was an animal, I would definitely be humbled, because the skill and the odds see those ribs almost clean. Whoa, the bird nearly landed on my head. How long do cheetahs live in the wild? Well, that depends on where you are. So, I've heard and read of cheetah living captivity, so on a farm basically, and that cheetah reached a ripe old age of about 23 years of age. But that is obviously in an unnatural environment, or controlled environment, let's say it that. But in the wild, life expectancy of a cheetah could be anywhere between 12 and 14 years. Males, generally, you're looking at actually anywhere between 8 and 10, obviously because of the sheer pressure that they have from other carnivores. And if you take a look at where you are, and also carnivores within the area, that number, that age maturity would also fluctuate depending on other species within the area. But a given rough figure, anywhere between 12 and 14 years would be a rough 8 to 10 years, sorry, my apologies, 8 to 10 years would it be a rough figure for a cheetah's life expectancy. And I mean, that's pretty good going. Now, thinking about the body of this animal and the battering that it takes. And you've got to think about the sheer pressure that's being exerted on this animal when it's running. It's phenomenal. From claws to ligaments, bones, muscles, heart, lungs, everything is being pushed to the breaking point. So, you know, reaching in a ripe old age of 9, 10, and that is, you've basically gotten very lucky. And then you're taking disease into account, you take in poaching, you take in, other factors. There's so many factors that cheetah are dealing with, and not only cheetah, but all large carnivores. And that's because habitat is being destructed at a scary rate. And animals like this need very large areas into which they must roam. So there's been females in Namibia that have had a life home range of 1,000+ kilometers. And because they wander so far, that's what puts them into conflict with humans so much, especially farmers. And obviously, you've got to protect your livelihood. But, where do we draw the line to say, we should rather look after an endangered species before we look after sheep? The government should subsidize for that sheep, because this is everything to us. This brings in, in terms of revenue, the country, it brings in a very large portion of the revenue, and it is a vital component of the ecosystem, these carnivores. So every single cheetah that we can save and protect, we need to. Morgan, that's a very good question. Can male cheetahs identify their cubs? Morgan, sure. I'm actually really not sure about that. In my stomach, deep down in my tummy and my gut, it's telling me no. I don't think male cheetahs would be able to recognize their offspring. I don't know how much research has gone into that, but that's a very intriguing question, Morgan. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get out my... So I haven't done this for a little while, but I'm going to get out my pen and my notepad, and I'm going to jot that down. And when I come to a conclusion, I will ask Deirdre to pass on the information. So can male cheetahs recognize their own cubs? And I'll make sure that information comes across to you, Morgan. Great question. It's questions like that obviously guides really, because from there you're extending one's knowledge. But we're going to send you over to Tristan with some lions.
Indeed, I'm going to just turn my lights off now. I had them on purely based on the fact that I needed to see where I was going, because otherwise you hit nasty little stumps on the edge of the road and get yourself into trouble. So that's why we kind of drive with the lights on, but when we're actually filming, we do it with the lights off. Unfortunately, as much as we would love to follow, I would love to develop something that you could drive and see, and then you don't have to have your lights on. It would be much better, but that's unfortunately doesn't really exist. Most of the kind of things that you can wear on your eyes don't really make for great driving abilities. They typically magnify things slightly, so it's quite tricky. Now, I was just chatting about to Johan, who's on the vehicle with me, and we were talking about lions and how if you're ever with them, the easiest way to follow them, if any of you ever do your own self-drive safaris in Kruger and places like that, if you ever get a situation like this where there are lions walking down the road and you have a vehicle that can go into low range, for some unbeknown reason, and weirdly enough, if you put your car into low range first gear, you will drive at the exact same speed as what lions walk. So bar that they don't stop, like they're going to stop now, so I'll have to brake, but otherwise the rate of their walking and the rate of my driving is exactly the same in first gear low range. Isn't that amazing? I don't know why, it's very, very cool. Certainly makes driving a lot easier, because otherwise if it wasn't the case, you're constantly kind of changing up, down, and you're having to use your clutch all the time, which can get pretty tricky at times, and it's not ideal for the car, whereas in first you just kind of roll along with them. I think they've picked up the scent of the hyenas in this particular spot. They were just sniffing around. I know there's a little latrine for hyenas here that they use. It's also not far from the den, so maybe they can pick up the smell of dead things. Obviously hyenas take carcasses to their dens, and so often there's a bit of a scent that lingers around there, particularly if you've got a sophisticated nose like these lions do. But hopefully they're going to just bypass, and we're not going to end up with too many issues when it comes to our lions. I'll just try to catch up a little bit with them so that we can kind of get them back into our IR range. The IR has only got a certain kind of field, and once they get out of it, it gets quite dark quite quickly. But the idea behind all of this is obviously when we're in IR is to view these animals with the least amount of disturbance as possible. It's not something that we want to do in terms of disturbing animals. We want them to be able to walk around without any light shone on them. Because even, when they kind of going through the bush, if you're shining a light following them, a number of things happen. You often attract things like hyenas, which can lead to, in the case of a leopard, let's say, a loss of a meal. Also, you're showing them to any potential prey items that are around. Whereas when there's no lights, they're doing what they would normally do. There's no kind of additional illumination on them. And it allows us to be able to to view them a lot more ethically. So that's why we use it as much as we can. But like I say, when you're off-roading and stuff, it's a little bit tricky not to use the car lights to just see where you're going. Otherwise you end up damaging the vehicle quite badly. Good, we're going to keep following them. They're not quite going to where Treehouse Dam at this stage, so I'm not sure where they're going to be heading, but we're going to be sending you somewhere else in South Africa. I didn't hear exactly where, but I'm sure it will be exciting.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala. Now, what actually brought our attention to this tree was there were a pair of woodlands kingfisher that were calling incredibly loudly. And I mean, it's all completely dark. It's probably some of the last calls that they're going to make for the evening before they wake up tomorrow. And for a long time, I thought that this was the woodlands kingfisher we were looking at. It's incredibly difficult in the dark to tell you exactly what it is. But just by that like kind of chin strap, that lighter color, that chin strap, that long bill, my guess would be a European bee-eater. I think we actually got very lucky finding the bee-eater. The woodlands kingfisher came here, and I was like, BK, that's a bird up there. And he was like, it is a bird. But it's not the woodlands kingfisher we were looking for. But it's still amazing. I mean, and Tristan was just talking about the IR light. This is an amazing advantage of having it, is being able to view this bird who's actually up in the tree there sleeping. Always going to spend the rest of the evening sleeping before it wakes up tomorrow and starts its day. So I've got no lights on it whatsoever, and if I look up to my right-hand side, it's just a dark tree. But with this amazing IR light, we can watch this bird without disturbing it whatsoever. It blinks every now and then. You can see the reflection in its eye. But if we did shine a spotlight on it, I'm almost certain that bird would fly away. And one of the reasons it would is it would be a completely new kind of environment for it, having that spotlight. It's probably quite warm, and it's incredibly bright. So that would confuse this bird, and it may even fly. And particularly once it does fly, I mean, their nocturnal vision isn't amazing, these daytime or diurnal birds. So when you do shine a light on them, their eyes, similar to ours, you know, when you walk into a room and the lights get turned on and then off and you can't see, it takes a long time for your eyes to readjust. When that bird has to fly out of there after having a spotlight on it, and it has to try and find another place to land in the dark, it's very tricky. It would have found that place just before it got dark and kind of settled in there. I'm sure because, or it's a black cuckoo calling. I think it was Kyle a few days. I've always remembered this call going, I'm so sad, but I liked it, I'm so glad. I like that one. Also, calling late, it's already dark. And as we're looking at this European bee-eater, I'm almost certain that there'll be quite a lot of European bee-eaters in this tree around. They often fly in quite large flocks. At the moment, we've been seeing lots of large flocks of European bee-eaters flying over. They've got a beautiful call when they do. Nowhere near as loud as that black cuckoo or a woodlands kingfisher for that matter. It's perched right at the top of that tree, hey? Legs gripping tightly onto quite a tiny, flimsy branch. But as you can see, there's not much wind tonight. That tree is almost dead still. I'm kind of hoping that a wind picks up shortly, just because it's been a really hot day and that there's nothing cooling us down at this moment. It's still very, very warm. So I'm really hoping that a wind does, even as just the smallest breeze. Particularly in this riverbed, you often feel it, and if there's no breeze in this riverbed, there's no wind happening anywhere else. It kind of funnels down here and blows. So let's let this European bee-eater, or I think it's a European bee-eater, rest for the rest of the evening. I'm going to keep going and see what else we can find. Sergeant, 12 years old, how big can these birds grow up to be, or in terms of size? That one that you saw at the top was fully grown, in fact, and that's exactly the fully size they'll get. They don't even breed here, so they come from Europe. I mean, in the name, the European bee-eater, they breed in kind of Eastern Europe, and they come down here to feed in the summertime on abundance of insects. So they always get you and they'll be fully grown by the time they do. So I mean, I'm in the river. Oh, there's something. Hello. PK, you got him. As we're going, this is actually a daytime animal that we've been looking for. Oh, let me help PK out here. Got him? Have a look at this chameleon. Awesome little find, actually. And also perched right on the edge of the branch. Have a look at those thorns on the branch that it's on as well. If you look away too quickly and try and look back, you can't even see it. It's so well camouflaged. And you'll see hanging on the edge of that branch, I mean, look at that. There we go. And this is actually a daytime animal, this chameleon, and it's also up in this tree sleeping. During the days, they'll come down and they'll move around hunting, looking for food. But in the evenings, it's safest for them to be exactly where it is. You see right at the edge of a branch. And particularly in the evenings, the predators that will be going for these chameleons will generally be snakes. This is quite a big chameleon. So, I mean, when they're a bit smaller, boomslangs would happily take down a chameleon. Look at those eyes moving. That's quite incredible through this IR. And you'll see this chameleon is incredibly comfortable with us being here. And the reason that I know, firstly, its color hasn't changed much at all. We would probably be able to pick up a change in the color in terms of the darkness of this chameleon if it did change. But also, if you look underneath its chin, this is specifically a flap-necked chameleon. And when they show signs of aggression, they do change color, but they also flap this neck out of theirs, trying to make themselves look bigger, and they can even sometimes hiss, but I don't think we'd be able to hear the hissing. But if he was hissing, you'd certainly be able to see that inflated chin. Look at those thorns as well on that branch. That's also like an extra protection for anything that wants to come in there during the evening. During the daytime, when they're moving around, snakes are also a big threat to this chameleon. But birds would love to feed on this chameleon. Ground hornbills, we've been seeing them quite a lot recently. Ground hornbills I've often seen fighting over chameleons, jumping into trees, trying to pull them out. Look at those little legs tucked up, slightly lighter in color. It's almost like those legs of his are trying to imitate a branch when the body is trying to imitate a leaf. It's quite amazing. And the ridges on its head, super angular. I love how that eyes are so just constantly moving around. Okay, I'm going to keep going in the riverbed, seeing what other little critters we can find this evening. In the meantime, I'm going to send you to Kyle and his cheetah.
Unfortunately, a little technical difficulty at Tswalu. So you're back with us with the lions. They've changed direction completely now. They're heading towards Twin Dam side, but I can also hear guinea fowl calling, which is way too late for them. And so I'm pretty sure that they're going to be, there's something that's disturbed them closer towards the Mulawati, which is why I suspect that they are making so much noise. So these lions have kind of changed direction because they've heard that and are basically heading towards where that noise is coming from. We'll see what it is. Who knows? Maybe it was just an owl that came flying past the guinea fowl. Maybe it's a leopard. Maybe it's other lions. We shall find out. I think we'll have enough time to get to where those guinea fowl are alarming. It's not too far from where we are. Generally, guinea fowl make noise during the day. They're not a nocturnal bird, so only when they're really disturbed at night will you hear them calling like this. And it is pitch black here. It's no longer any available lights. If I don't have lights on, I can't see anything.
Welcome back, everybody, and we're still currently going in the riverbed here, particularly having a look at the tops of these trees and the canopies. There's lots of bugs tonight, and having a look for leopards, maybe a tail hanging, maybe a leg of an impala. Also lots of eyes that I'm looking for in the trees for leopards and certain birds. I mean, in the end of that sighting, there was a barred owlet that was calling. I wonder if we won't be able to find it. It's an incredibly small owl, that one, though. I wonder if I don't hear it again, I might try and... Oh, nothing. Wonder if I won't try and see if we can't find it. Got to be listening very carefully. It's such a treat being able to drive in this riverbed. It gives you a real good scope as to what's around, and I mean particularly on the banks is where the larger trees are, and it's also a little bit easier on the banks where there's that extra elevation so that a leopard doesn't have to really climb all the way from the bottom of the tree. It can almost jump a quarter of the way up the trunk and then take its carcass up into this tall tree where there'll be branches for it to hang on, and because of the size of the tree, often lots of horizontal branches. That's not to say that I'm not looking on the floor. I mean, particularly if it's a smaller female leopard, she's killed a bigger animal like maybe an impala ram, it might be quite heavy for her to actually take up into that tree, so she might spend a bit of time feeding on it on the bottom of the ground, trying her best to keep it hidden. However, in this area particularly, there's an incredibly high number or a great population of hyenas. And this is the time when hyenas are moving around lots, and they'll be using their noses to find carcasses that may be stored on the ground. But, oh, there's a genet. Let's see if it doesn't disappear. Let's use the IR light, see if that doesn't help this genet come back. Gone. Let's see if it won't come out on the other side. Got into a spikethorn thicket. I mean, I wish... Oh, here it comes, here it comes. Turn the lights off on the edge of that side. Let's see if he won't come out. Stop here for a moment. It was on the outside there, Beaks. It kind of popped its head out, and then... Yeah, you got him. There it goes. Awesome. Just strolling through the riverbed. I mean, how's that for a difference in behavior? Once I first spotted it with the spotlight, and that's all the spotlight's there, is to actually find the animal initially, because I'm sitting in the complete darkness at the moment. It kind of went into that spikethorn thicket, but as soon as it's dark and the conditions are favorable to this genet, it kind of starts behaving normally again. Cruising through, you see how its nose is right down on the ground, smelling. It's quite a good scavenger, this genet. Might be looking for some insects or even some leftovers from a small carcass, maybe. Are you going to come back towards the riverbed? Oh, look at that tail, hey? Look at the stripes. And look at the spots. It was that scent marking there. It looked like it raised its tail up there. Now, I know we've been looking for leopards in the riverbed, but that scent mark has got an incredibly distinctive smell. It actually smells very similar to that of a leopard's scent mark. People say, and I actually completely agree. Now that this genet's gone, I'm going to keep going. It smells just like freshly made popcorn, which sounds strange, I know. But it is exactly what it smells like. And you'll smell it in the mornings. Particularly if you went there now, you'd smell it very strong. Is it back again? PK, you see there? Let's see if it doesn't come back into the riverbed here. Okay. It seems like this genet might have just... Oh, no, there it is. But I'm going to let this genet continue on its way. And now I'm going to keep looking for some leopard. And then I'm going to send you over to Kyle with his cheetah.
nice one, Dan. Janet, what a fantastic animal to view. These little cubs with full bellies are starting to venture and wander away from mom. And that's typical of young animals. Eat, sleep, and play. That's all they need to worry about now, which is great, because this play behavior is obviously developing them in the manner in which they need to. So obviously muscles, coordination, developing skills on how to run and chase and grab. And mom just calling them back, uttering the soft, almost like purr, grrr, saying, come back here, guys. What are the chances they're going to go back to the carcass? And mom just taking it easy there. She's done her work for the day. Barking geckos are starting to call. It's gotten very cool now. There's not a cloud in the sky in comparison to yesterday. The sunset we had yesterday was just mind-boggling. And this evening is a clear sky. And those clouds are obviously typical of the summer period, where you have these nice build-ups and a few clouds here and there. But in winter, they're clear in the afternoons and clear in the evenings. That's some of the best time to stargaze on Tswalu's in winter period, when the sky is absolutely beaming with stars. It's a really remarkable experience to be out here and to view this sea of blinking, twinkling little stars. So maybe we should stick around here for the evening. Doesn't look like there's any carnivores in the area. So hopefully they'll continue feed on this little carcass.
Welcome back, everybody. So I've just stopped in the riverbed. I mean, it has gone awfully quiet, but it's actually amazing. Awfully quiet's not the right word. But I'm going to just put the camera on the banks here at these beautiful trees and listen. There's all sorts of noises. It's a barred owlet calling in the background. But just listen out for anything that you can. It really is quite amazing to just sit in silence sometimes. And I know I mentioned it earlier about there being lots of bugs tonight. I'm sure you can see the ones that are flying around even in the darkness. When you turn on your lights, it almost attracts them. So there are lots of insects around at the moment. The nocturnal birds are going to be having a great time tonight. I'm going to keep going, everybody, see what else we can find this evening. And if not, we'll see you tomorrow.
Well, it's just gotten a bit better. The little cubs have decided to come quite close to Mom, and there's a little mutual grooming going on. Giving Mom some love. Also a very efficient way on how you can remove debris from one's face by having a partner or an individual that can help you out with just that task. So they look fairly relaxed, so I really think deep down inside that they're going to stay the night here. And they'll more than likely move off in the morning. So they'll find a bush close by where they feel comfortable and secure, and that's where they'll stay throughout the night. FC, there was a break in comms. Can you re-go with that comment, please? Patricia, their bellies are massive. I would agree with you there. They have jam-packed those bellies. That's what you do. You can imagine if you hadn't eaten for a few days and you are very, very hungry, and you sit down at a dining room table, you would just go to town on that meal. And that's what they've done here. They've consumed as much as they possibly can. Because if they have to get out here, you want a tummy full of food at that. Especially all the effort that Mom has gone through to capturing this little springbok. We've also taken a closer look. It is a young male, a ram, that she's taken on. No, sorry, young female. Young ewe. So that an antelope that size, we refer to the females as ewes. Oh, look at that. Can hear the white-browed sparrow weavers in the distance saying goodnight. It's one or two cicadas that are really not judging the temperature correctly, and they're trying to call. Those muscles don't work very efficiently under cold conditions. But having fur like these little individuals is a great way of staying warm. And obviously being able to generate their own heat from metabolic activity, breakdown of cells and proteins, generate energy. And a bath session is going on now. So keeping that coat in tip-top condition is very important for them. Lovely sounds going on around us. And just a perfect scene to end off the evening. Oh, back down. Barking geckos very close to us, all calling. Oh, and they think it's time for the third helping, even with big bellies like that. Phew. What a jam-packed day it's been, folks. Thank you for the questions and comments from us. We have from Tswalu, thank you. A big appreciation from our colleagues. And be sure to jump on tomorrow for the sunrise safari. From now until then, farewell.